across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Very, very good morning to you. This is Talk with the Home of Common Sense. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Whether you're listening on DAB+ radio or on your smart speaker, watching on YouTube or on your connected device, as always, absolutely fabulous to have your company. Don't forget, if you miss anything, we've had a couple of stonking shows already this week. Go back and have a look on YouTube. If you go to YouTube, put in the Julia Hartley-Brewer show. Nice and easy. No excuses for forgetting that. You can hit subscribe. You never have to miss a thing. You can catch up on everything. I have to say, today, I was thinking it'd be quite nice not to talk kind of pretty much on and on about the BBC, even though the stuff that Tim Davie was saying yesterday in his message to the BBC staff just showed how utterly useless and delusional the leadership of the BBC is, that he genuinely doesn't think they've done anything wrong. He really, really doesn't. This is basically the problem, as we discussed ad nauseum for the last couple of days. But I was not expecting that we would not be talking about pretty much leading on, you know, there are loads of foreign criminals and other criminals who've been just, you know, accidentally released onto the streets from prison. No one really knows how many or where they are or who they are, but, you know, carry on as normal. Then I thought, oh, when I saw the headlines of the papers last night, oh, we might be doing, you know, 1,000 jobs lost a day, maybe even, you know, 1 million extra people going on dodgy benefits, claiming they're a bit too anxious to go to work, not even required to look for a job, basically on the scrap heap of life. And, oh, good, let's put up our taxes to pay for them. No, apart from all that, I thought, well, you know, there's plenty to talk about. Wake up this morning to apparently a plot to oust the Prime Minister. Now, many of us might welcome such a plot, but it turns out there isn't a plot. Well, according to the man who's been accused of the plotting by, we are told, by himself, Number 10 sources. A very clear, concerted briefing went out from Keir Starmer's staff in Number 10 to claim that there was an imminent plot to oust the Prime Minister. Not waiting till after those May local elections, no. Maybe even just only after the budget due 2 weeks today. Well, the names that were mentioned, Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, and you've got to see the funny side, the energy net zero, whatever he is, you know, turning us back away from the industrial age Secretary, Ed Miliband. I mean, properly comedy times if we had Ed Miliband in as the Prime Minister of this country. But Wes Streeting was on the media round this morning. Now, it may be in the case that Number 10 little plotters themselves thought they'd push Wes Streeting into basically pledging his loyalty to the Prime Minister, which of course he was always going to do. But he has now attacked the toxic culture in Number 10. They congratulated them on going forward to the boys instead of attacking only female cabinet ministers this time. He's accused them of watching too much Celebrity Traitors, says they should swap to Country File. And he says that Keir Starmer should sack whoever is briefing the media. The plot thickens. So how much trouble is Keir Starmer actually in? I mean, he hasn't been in power for, I kid you not, 500 days yet. And he's already facing talk of being ousted, and even just after the budget. And we know just how bad that budget is going to be in 2 weeks' time for, well, you know, anyone who bothers to go out to work or has worked and got a pension or, I don't know, invested in a home and wants to keep it nice and maybe hasn't let it go to rack and ruin, so it's might be actually worth something. Or, you know, I don't know, is just trying to look after their kids properly. Yeah, we're all going to be paying in a couple of weeks' time as a result of that. But I want to hear from you. Toxic culture in Number 10, briefings and counter-briefings, senior cabinet ministers forced to deny their plotting against the Prime Minister ahead of only his second budget being delivered by his Chancellor in 2 weeks' time. We haven't even got to those local elections and Scottish and Welsh elections next May, which by all accounts are going to be a disaster for the sitting government. So what do you make of this? And does it tell us that Keir Starmer is strong? Or actually very weak, under attack from the left and the right? How do you fancy the chances of Wes Streeting, Shabana Mahmood, Ed Miliband, lol, or anyone else taking over from Keir Starmer? Because, wow, you might think Keir Starmer's bad. Careful what you wish for, folks. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of this. And of course, do feel free to get in touch with all about the shirkers not at work. Feel free to get in touch about the BBC. They're still riling an awful lot of us up because they clearly don't get it. Anything you want to talk about, you get in touch. The numbers are call 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. Get in touch with us on X at talkTV. And of course, calls to charge the national rate. Text cost 1 standard network rate message. Claire Pearce, I'm delighted to say, is joining me today, former Conservative Government Advisor. You've got a little bit of a naughty little smirk on your face, young lady, because, I mean, we thought your lot were bad.
I know,
But I mean, look, everyone I know who was actually a Labour supporter was saying, Keir Starmer, I mean, this guy is, I'm like, I don't know what you're seeing. I don't know. Yeah, he turned it around from absolute defeat under, Corbyn to he won that big majority, fair play. But let's face it, we all know it was basically people going, the Tories are useless, we're done.
Yes.
And that's how Labour got that massive majority. It wasn't a big vote of confidence in Keir Starmer and Labour. They have turned out to be beyond my wildest imagination of how bad they would be. They have turned out to be worse. But this briefing against any and every cabinet minister that seems to go on, whether it's Lucy Powell, whether it's Angela Rayner, whether it's Bridget Phillipson. I mean, and now Wes Street, they're definitely going for Wes Streeting. They see him obviously as a threat. Has this shored up Keir Starmer or made him look weaker?
No, I think it's made him look ridiculous. If Number 10 thought that this was going to shore up the Prime Minister and make him look strong and statesmanlike, I don't know what manual they've been reading, but it's not the how to govern manual that the rest of us have. They thought Tory infighting was terrible. Yeah. They thought that we were a childish group of people looking
chaos and incompetence.
Yeah, and now it's a case of hold my beer, we can do it worse than you ever did. I mean, if
Hold
it wasn't
my beer,
so serious,
never here, free gear.
Exactly.
Here.
I mean, the headlines write themselves, don't they? But apparently this was to smoke out anybody that was against the Prime Minister. They haven't smoked anybody out. They've set the whole place on fire. I don't understand what they're doing. I really don't, because
I don't think they understand.
They're not
what they're
clever
doing.
enough for this.
But here's the thing: people, Wes Streeting basically saying Keir Starmer should sack whoever's briefing the media. If he doesn't sack someone, because this wasn't someone said something in the pub. This was a clear briefing to the BBC, to apparently to Bloomberg, to the Times. I mean, this is a concerted, deliberate briefing from someone very senior, clearly. Okay, and clearly knowing perfectly well, because Downing Street organises these things, that the media round, the morning round, would be done by Wes Streeting, so putting him on the back foot there. I mean, I watched a lot of his interviews this morning. He handled it with aplomb. He's a brilliant media operator. And he was the whole been watching too much Celebrity Traitors, that touch, and talking about why aren't we talking about the stuff that matters, like his reforms of the NHS and all that stuff. And I think he was on really, really strong footing. It made him look more like a strong potential leader. But I don't know why they're so threatened. If you look at the polling of Labour Party members, and this is the thing, why did Labour Party members vote for Corbyn as Labour leader originally? Well, because they're all lefties. That's why they're not representative, actually, largely of Labour voters, Red Wall voters and others. But when there's that polling, Wes Streeting does not do well. I mean, I saw one set of polling, he had 4% of the support. I mean, they love Angie Rayner,
they do.
And they're probably more likely to vote for Ed Miliband. I think, which would, just for the laughs, it would be fun to have him back and have another Ed Stone and all of that. But I mean, but I don't know
not
if the country don't think the country would survive. I don't know that. But how much of a threat it is here? I mean, Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, considered to be a threat. But at the end of the day, I mean, what has she actually done? She talks the talk. She said some good, strong stuff. And yes, she ticks a box. She's a woman. She ticks a box. She's brown. She's another one. She's a Muslim. So for a party that only elects straight white men, they're desperate to have, because they only see things through that prism of identity politics. But realistically, what has she done?
Well, she hasn't. I mean, she's come along and she's spoken a lot tougher on immigration than I think I've seen any other Labour MP do it. But no, she hasn't. And this is always the problem, isn't it? Everybody is looking at who the next leader is going to be.
A year and a half after a general election.
Exactly. Rather than concentrating on the leader that they have, who wanted change, who was going to bring in the grown-ups and make this country great again, to coin a phrase. So why they're doing it, I don't know. They're just not very good. They want to look like they're strong and circling their wagons. But there's no reason for them to do so.
Yeah, but exactly. If you're strong, you're not.
You don't need to do
I
this.
don't really think that Wes Streeting's a threat. I don't really think Shabana Mahmood's a threat because
No.
it's the Prime Minister. But again, we've got PMQs today, what question will Kemi Badger, not the Tory leader, will she go in on any of this stuff? Because, of course, she's facing threats to her own leadership, although she's had a few very, very strong weeks, I would say. But I mean, it's the whole thing is simple. But it's all the backdrop is not just the May local elections. It's this upcoming budget. Things are looking terrible, and there's this briefing that's going out that the markets will go crazy if Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves are ousted. Après moi le déluge, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, look how bad it could get is the idea. But you've got Wes Streeting basically, and he was again on the rounds today. He was talking about we shouldn't breach manifesto promises. We know there's going to be a breach of manifesto promises. There's going to be some raising of income tax.
Yeah.
Or, cutting of national insurance for some people to make up for it, but not everybody. Taxes are going to go up. And we've got inflation is still, way above where it should be. Interest rates ain't coming down as quickly as people want. We're looking at 1,000 jobs a day now being lost because of the jobs tax. That's her, solely her. Number of benefit claimants who never have to work hits 4 million. It's up, 1 million more people claiming universal credit, the main out-of-work benefit, with no requirement to look for a job because they're claiming some sort of mental health crisis. I'm sorry. I mean, it used to be the case that they hid the unemployment figures with people on incapacity benefit. Well, now we've got we've got disability or illness benefits sky high, and unemployment now at 5%, which is high for this country.
Yeah,
I mean, France would be dreaming of such an unemployment rate, but. I mean, there is not a single stat that is looking good. Things are going to get a lot worse before, if ever, they get better.
Well, that's right. And not only do we have all of the jobs taxes, you have the employment rights bill. So employers are looking at it going, well, you're going to hit us financially, but you're now going to hit us really hard with employment rights. That means that even if we don't have... if we have somebody that we employ and it's not working out, we can't get rid of them.
And I've certainly worked with somebody who did a fantastic interview, and I was like, oh my God, this person. It turned out, and I'm not over properly a psycho, proper full-on psychopath. I mean, literally mad. Yeah. And to the extent that I'm like, I literally won't even be in the same room as this person alone. They are so mad and dangerous. I mean, but they did a great interview. Oh my God, they were brilliant in the interview. And that's the thing, and every employer, you get these people who just, they talk the talk, but actually they don't deliver, or they're mad, or lazy, or useless, whatever. But either way, employers need to have that choice. And again, as even some Labour people are saying, what's the point of having employment rights if you haven't got a job? And we know that huge employment rights in France, I mean, massive, but actually they've got much higher unemployment because employers don't take people on.
Well, of course they don't. And all the talk about all the young people who are out of the jobs market, well, those employers who were hitting really hard with tax and employment rights are not going to take anybody on. They're not going to take the risk. Therefore, we aren't going to grow as a country. So Rachel Reeves can raise as much taxes as she likes and think this is going to get the economy moving. But if businesses haven't got confidence, they aren't going to employ people. No. They're going to take their business elsewhere.
And you make it more expensive to employ the new people without the job track record, without the experience. I mean, watching my daughter and her mates trying to get work in the last year or two, really to part-time work, literally taking anything below minimum wage, the sort of those youth, youth minimum wage, and genuinely, travelling an hour and a half to do a few hours of washing up to get something on the CV, so you've got some experience to get the next job. So the young strivers finding it difficult because they're going, well, all the red tape involved is so. But Ken, if we did have digital ID, it would all be fine, right? Again, I really, really, really need X. I love my Twitter. I really need them to have a sarcasm. Font.
They need that. Yeah,
they really do need that, don't they? Digital ID would solve it all. But we simply cannot afford to have all these people on these sort of benefits, and not only are we paying for them, and it's not just the benefits they get; they're entitled to the housing benefit, but also the madness of the Chancellor looking at getting rid of or scrapping the two-child benefit cap. Yeah, we should absolutely be paying people to have a load of kids they can't afford to have. I mean, when most of these people, they go, they're working households. They're not working households. Dad is doing a couple of days a week. Yeah. Mum isn't working. You know why? Because she keeps having more kids. And I know we've got a demographic problem. I'm not entirely sure that a load of people who can't support the kids they've got already, having a load more kids, is really the best route out of that problem.
No, it isn't. And this is not about child poverty, which is what the Prime Minister would like you to believe. It's absolutely nothing to do with it.
It isn't, is it? Explain what it is.
It's about allowing the voting group who will vote for Labour, allow them to have the extra benefits, to have the extra
So it's not just lefties, it's lefty view that, you know, you solve poverty by handing out other people's money to people. Was it 1 in 5 families from Pakistani heritage, 1 in 4 families from Bangladeshi heritage
That's exactly
have more families,
they
more
have
kids, and therefore
more kids, and therefore they are more likely to get that money, and then they are more likely
you could have as many kids as you want, but you have to pay for them.
But surely
Simple
that's
as that.
the way. I grew up like that. You probably grew up like that. You want something, you earn the money and you pay for it.
I know so many people who would love to have a second child or a third child, and who just, and it's not like, oh, their lifestyle. No, they literally, they simply can't afford it.
Yeah.
They're living, they've cut everything to the cloth as far as they can, but they simply can't afford to have more kids, and they wouldn't, and they earn a bit too much to get benefits, but people, you know, the only people who can afford to have 4 kids, right? You live on a council estate or a country estate. They're the only people. Everyone, the rest of us, the 90% of us in the middle, can't afford to do it.
No, this is it.
I'm like, no, we've got 1 kid. We were able to stay in sort of fairly central London because we had 1. If we'd had a second, not a chance. Yeah. Not a chance.
Well, this is it. I've only got 1 for very similar reasons. I could afford him. I was on my own.
Also, he's over 6 foot. He eats a lot.
He does eat a lot. He's very good on the pasta. So that's, you know, relatively cheap. But it's one of those things that you have to look at very sensibly. Can I afford to do this? If the answer is no or only just, you don't do it.
Yeah, I mean that is the reality, isn't it? Let's talk about the other big story of the week, of course. BBC. Tim Davie yesterday, the outgoing director general, he's going to still be in the job for like 4, 5, 6 months apparently. Great. He gave a 40-minute sort of, you know, to and fro chat to BBC staff yesterday. I mean, he utterly delusional. He blamed enemies of the BBC for stoking the bias scandal engulfing the corporation. The broadcaster is the very best of society. Those 2 statements are exactly what's wrong with the BBC. They're delusional about the problem. The problem is you and the work that you guys have done. You did something against every journalistic ethic, and not just over Donald Trump, over Israel, over the trans issue, over climate change. You don't obey the... when I did my local newspaper training, and when I did my journalism course, and yes, I know it doesn't feel like it, but I was actually trained. I get, you know, journalist inverted commas on social media. Really spent a lot of money on that course. And if I'd done some of the things that they'd done, I'd have been failed. You'd have literally got, you know, you've got a fail on the course because it's so, the journalistic practice is so bad. And yet he's saying we are the best of society. But that's the other issue. They genuinely think they're better than us. If they are the very best, we must be below them, right? They think that they're the guiding hand of goodness and niceness and virtue. Having to provide education, indoctrination and propaganda to us horrible, bigoted, stupid plebs. Yeah. That's literally what he means by that.
It is, and the BBC is some kind of holier-than-thou attitude. And when sort of listening to that, it was like when people are going through a breakup and they start blaming everybody else. It was always that person over there, that's their fault, don't like your friends anyway, never liked your mum. It was that kind of attitude. Everybody else was out to get him, and all the BBC were doing were being morally right.
No, you had an affair. That's why we're breaking up. I mean, that's the thing.
But it is, and listening to it, and they feel that they're so morally ahead of everybody else.
They really do, though. And that's why they cannot, and therefore anyone who criticises them must be a bad person. Yeah. Because they think they are better than us. I mean, the broadcaster is the very best of society. That means the rest of us are below. Oh, you know, I'm really sorry for trying to actually, you know, promote, you know, truth. I mean, I think that what we do on this station is genuinely public service broadcasting, trying to put out the facts, trying to actually provide, you know, different levels of debate. We're not afraid of other people disagreeing with us or having that debate. Never. I mean, what amazes me is how many people who I disagree with will go, oh, I don't want to come on. So, what? You can have the platform. What are you scared of? What are you scared of?
But that's what debate is. It's being able to have the benefit of a space where you can have that discussion, you can have a disagreement. It's fine. Nobody's
and
going
if you
to be
think you're
offended.
right, you should be able to defend your. There's no one. There's no one I wouldn't debate with because I couldn't defend my arguments. We had Donald Trump speaking in an American TV interview. Said he's got an obligation to sue the BBC. He's waiting for that apology by the Friday, but he's already had the apology. That's the thing. We had the resignations of Tim Davie and Deborah Turness, the head of BBC News. We had those resignations on Sunday night, and that was after they had received a letter from Donald Trump's personal lawyer saying, they demanded an apology. So there was that apology, sort of. There were the resignations, and he's still saying he has an obligation to sue.
It's almost sort of comical, isn't it? Because I understand why he's doing it, and I think he's got every right to be very angry at the clip. This is his words, his speech was misconstrued in a particularly egregious way.
Misrepresented.
It was misrepresented.
It wasn't a mistake.
It was a fraudulently put together clip, and they need to own up to that. Yep. With him suing the BBC, I don't actually think it's going to happen. Just the complications of the legalities. There will be a payoff. They need to apologise a lot better. Not a "I'm sorry if you were offended" kind of apology, but an absolute proper
it's going to have
on
to
your
be.
knees. I apologise. We were wrong. Mea culpa. And have done.
And you deliberately misleading the public by deliberately splicing together two parts of the speech to distort what was said by the then presidential candidate. He was still he was actually still president, wasn't he? In January 2021. But again, the show went out just ahead of the 24 election. They did that. The enemies of the I didn't do that. I didn't do that. Defund the BBC didn't do that. Nigel Farage didn't do that. Kenny Badenoch didn't do that. You did that, not us. Just finally, I must get to just a small matter. At least 3 more prisoners were mistakenly freed from jail and are at large. David Lammy had to admit in the Commons yesterday. He's been criticised for endangering the public. One of those is an Albanian drug dealer, released in error. He's been on the run for more than a year. I kind of figured we'd be leading with this today. I'm not going to lie.
Any other normal day, we probably would have been. The statement in the Chamber of the House of Commons yesterday was a masterclass in how bad this government really are. But there was no real apology. There was no acknowledgement that his department has made such a mess of this.
He's not personally responsible for someone releasing a prisoner. Exactly. I mean, he isn't personally responsible. No. I mean, I do hate the sort of, he is Calamity Lammy. He is, and he's so pompous. You can't ask for it. I do wonder if we'd be better off putting that French cab driver who he's in dispute with. Put the French cab driver in charge. I bet he'd be better at it.
Oh, I think he would. He'd be great.
I'm going to start a campaign. I'm going to start a petition. Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of the stories we're talking about today. I mean, particularly on the Starmer leadership, but anything else you want to talk about. I mean, we'll get to the WASPy women. Oh, yeah, and France now stopping fewer boats under the Starmer deal. Because, it's all going brilliantly. It's all going brilliantly. We're going to be talking about asylum seekers can be housed at Epping's Bell Hotel, a ruling from the judge in the High Court yesterday. We talked about that on the show yesterday as well. We have so much to get through. We're going to try and get to as many of the big stories as possible. And I want to hear your views on any and all of them. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. This is Talk.
91 have been released accidentally since the spring. It may in fact be more than that, because there are some people he doesn't know whether they were in jail or not, such is the state of our prisons right now. And he basically tried to cover up these statistics, didn't he? He wouldn't say last week when he stood in for Keir Starmer at Prime Minister's Questions and eventually was dragged kicking and screaming to say so yesterday. Why? Because it's a total embarrassment and this is endangering the public. We laugh about it, and David Lammy, yeah, is a complete joke.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Morning, welcome back. It's 10:29. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. This is Talk. Let's get straight to your calls. 0344 499 1000. You want to have your say on Keir Starmer after this, apparently, this sort of plot to oust him by, we're told, Wes Streeting. The Health Secretary's going, no. He's criticised the toxic culture at Number 10 for all these briefings. And he says, well, basically, Keir Starmer needs to sack the people who are plotting against him. Let's talk about that now with Brian. He's in Lancashire. Good morning to you, Brian.
Hi, Julia.
Hello. What do you want to say?
I'd just like to ask who they would replace him with, because I can't see anyone within the Labour Party that's remotely clever enough, or in many ways, I just can't see who they would replace him with. Maybe David Lammy would be a good solution. You know,
it'd be funny. All, I mean, you know, just for the laugh. Ed Miliband, David Lammy, job share, just for the laughs.
Yeah, great.
But that's the thing, isn't it? When people talk about ousting, I mean, I've always thought that Wes Streeting, I like him personally. He's clearly a great media performer. He's a sharp guy. He's got a good sort of, that awful phrase, backstory of his life. But and I like him, but very unhappy about his views on Israel and his pandering to the Muslim vote in his constituency, because he's got a majority of about 500, and he's not been as strong on issues like trans as he said he would be. I mean, is he the great white hope for the party?
I doubt it. I mean, I think he likes the sound of his own voice personally, but
don't we all, darling? You're thinking there's no one. What do you think is behind the Downing Street briefing? Because it was clearly a deliberate briefing against Wes Streeting.
Yeah, I mean, it's going all the time, isn't it? You know, I've been involved in politics for over 60 years, and you always get this situation when things are not right.
Yeah.
But things are a complete shambles. People elect politicians on promises, and we never seem to learn that these promises are absolute rubbish.
Yeah.
And we've now got the Reform Party, and we've got a guy in charge who's a personality, and people vote for personalities. We've always seen that. Who shouts loudest, you know.
But there's also an element where
that they can't keep.
Yeah, that is the thing. I mean, again, Nigel Farage, the last election, said he wasn't going to have a manifesto because no one trusts him anyway. But there is an element where you need a strong personality, whether it's like Trump or Bolsonaro or I don't know, something. You need to actually, Milei in Argentina, that actually a strong personality is needed to push through certain things.
Yeah, that's right. I agree. But what I don't agree with is that people are so gullible, still believe in the promises that are made. We'll listen to the Reform Party now, and there's a good chance if there's an election that they would be elected, but they can't possibly keep to the promises that they're coming up with.
It's interesting, Nigel Farage is already downgrading some promises about tax cuts, because they know that is simply not good. This is just not going to be an option, just simply if you do the numbers. Appreciate that, Brian. Very wise words. Carl is on the line in Liverpool. Hello, Carl.
Good morning, Julia.
Good morning.
Yeah, so this coup to try and get Keir Starmer out, I'm surprised it's taken this long, to be honest, because from day one we've seen nothing but scandal, lie after lie. I mean, it worries me to who we get in if this goes ahead, because, like you were just discussing then, David Lammy and Miliband, you don't really feel with a lot of confidence, considering they can't do their own jobs to a good standard and they're being switched around. So if it does happen, then are we in a worse position than we are now?
Yeah.
Does it get better? We don't know. And are we willing to test those waters?
I mean, Labour MPs, look, if Labour MPs, if we get the budget, there's a massive backlash to that. I don't know how much further they can go down in the polls, but I mean, really, from where they are. And then you get a ousting, I mean, absolute trouncing at the May elections in Scotland, Wales and local elections. They're going to be worried about, let's face it, paying their own mortgages. That's what this is going to come down to. They want to keep their jobs in 2029. So they're going to be willing to try anything, aren't they?
They are, Julie. And if I may just pop over to the budget quickly. So I've got 3 children. I have another on the way, so I'm going to have. I can afford to have my 4th and be comfortable in a way. But we've sent so much money abroad foreign aid. But a couple of weeks ago, we gave 111 million for contraception to another country.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but this country is on its knees. People in the indigenous population, and me, you, and everyone else, are struggling. Everything's gone up in the world, yet we still give money away. I don't understand why they're looking outside this country to give help to other people.
And there's a big difference, isn't there? Like proper long-term help, in terms of, I don't know, helping with water and jabs if that is necessary, or in an emergency. But just throwing away our money on these schemes. And we've been paying, was it 35 million training tax collectors or something in another country? I mean, it's just mad. Carl, thank you very much indeed for that. Well, that budget is going to be, not happy days for us, that's for sure. Let's take a quick break. Up next, we're going to talk to a Labour councillor, Brendan Chilton, about what is going on in the Labour Party and what is the solution to where Labour is in the polls, other than getting rid of Keir Starmer, or is a change of personnel not really going to do it? We'll find out what he thinks up next. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Morning, welcome back to the show. 10:38 is the time. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Claire Pearce also with me. She's a former Conservative government advisor. She's enjoying the fun and games with number 10, briefing and counter-briefing, and is there a coup, isn't there a coup? But I wonder if my next guest is, we'll get her thoughts on what he has to say. Brendan Chilton is a Labour councillor. He's also Chief Executive of the Independent Business Network, and a good old friend of mine as the former leader of Labour Leave, a good fine Brexit here. Brendan Chilton, welcome back to the show.
Good morning, Julia. It's nice to be with you.
Lovely to have you here. Now, I've just a really straight question, really. I mean, we've got Wes Streeting being briefed about blatantly. I mean, he says, like, this is a number 10 briefing against him and Shabana Mahmood and Ed Miliband, apparently all on manoeuvres, not even waiting till the May local elections, possibly just after the budget in 2 weeks' time. He's attacked a toxic culture at number 10 and saying that Keir Starmer has to sack those who've been plotting, well, briefing against him, where they're saying he's plotting against the Prime Minister. What do you make of it all?
Well, it's certainly all very unedifying, and this is the sort of thing one would expect towards the end of a government, not just still, but relatively a new government. Let's just deal with the two things separately. If there is some sort of coup underway, my suggestion to the Health Secretary would be to focus on continuing to get waiting times down, deal with the problems in cancer care in the UK, sort out the fact we've got a tobacco ban going through that doesn't include Northern Ireland, so kids over there are still going to be able to smoke. And also
they're still going to be able to smoke here. They'll get them on the black market, my love.
Yeah, yes, yeah, absolutely. It's probably going to create
like
matters
they do
worse.
right now.
Exactly. And then, of course, all the other issues in terms of social care. So there's a whole range of things he needs to be getting on with and delivering. If there isn't a coup and the Prime Minister's staff are out of control, they need to go, because divided governments do not go on to win general elections. And this morning, when people woke up and had their morning coffee and saw the newspapers and the news, they were probably thinking, we've got tax rises on the horizon, nothing works in the country, people are frustrated and angry. We do not want to see Westminster politics flapping about when they should be getting on with dealing with the problems the country faces.
And this
so
is
that's my
This
That's
is the
my
thing,
take
isn't
on it,
it?
Julia.
Because there was all that criticism, and quite rightly by many outside the Tory party, of the absolute chaos and incompetence at number 10 and constant changing personalities and leadership bids and rivals. And then it was sort of, oh, the grown-ups are in charge, a bit of calm, sensible. OK, Keir Starmer's a bit dull, but he'll be a good manager. And we can just have a little bit of just, everyone take a breather, a bit of calmness. And it's been non-stop scandal, free gig here, chaos, incompetence. How many prisoners are actually behind bars today? How many boats have been stopped? How many immigrants have been deported and have come back? Okay. Non-stop, absolute madness since he's been in power. He's less than 500 days still. And we've got a budget coming up that's promising to be even worse than the last one. There's not a single stat that's going in the right direction. How long, realistically, can Keir Starmer last?
Well, I think, Julia, before just coming to that point, if I could just say, I think central to all of this is something that actually Barry Gardiner MP said last night, that the country looks to this Labour government and doesn't quite know what it stands for and what it's trying to achieve.
No, it's worse than that. The Labour government doesn't know what it stands for or is trying to achieve.
Well, I think there's probably an element of that is true. We came in on this promise of change and nobody quite knew what change was. And, there are things one would expect from a Labour government, namely more spending on public services, better rights, etc. But we wouldn't be expecting doctors' disputes, which are currently going on, and more strike action.
No. Those of us who've paid attention for the last 50 years, can I just say, when you give the doctors exactly what they've asked for, we all said they're going to come back for more. And guess what? They haven't. We've got another set of 5-day strikes starting on Friday.
And that's just jumping back to my earlier point. If the coup is happening, I'd sooner rather our ministers were dealing with that than actually manoeuvring in Westminster. But coming back to Keir Starmer's leadership, there's no escaping the polls. Keir Starmer is rated as one of the most unpopular prime ministers on his personal ratings.
No, he's not. The worst.
Yes, the worst. So I'm trying to be generous as I can on this difficult day. But the fact is that needs to turn around. We have got a budget at the end of the month, which is not going to be pleasant. And if the opinion polls are correct, we obviously face very, very, very disastrous elections next year in Wales, in Scotland, and around the rest of England in local elections as well. And it is a natural thing for people to say, if it's going this badly, what do we need to do to change? Now, I look at political history, and we have had prime ministers. I appreciate Keir Starmer is rated as the most unpopular prime minister, but there have been unpopular prime ministers in the past who have turned things around. I think of Blair after Iraq, Margaret Thatcher before the Falklands War, and they have subsequently gone on to win. But we need to see a turnaround pretty fast now.
And that's the thing. What's going to lead that? Because that's the thing I do wonder, and I said this at the time of the general election as well. That the stuff, whether it's Liz Truss, Rishi Sunak, whoever it is, the stuff in the in tray doesn't change, and when it's Keir Starmer, it doesn't change, and if it was Wes Streeting, it doesn't change. There is no money left. You can't borrow anymore because of the rate of the interest that is being paid. There is exactly the same issue in terms of waiting lists, whether you've got a blue rosette on or a red rosette, or frankly a teal, turquoise rosette on. Doesn't make any difference. It's whether it's your ability to deal with the issue. Is a change of personnel, is that the change? Would Wes Streeting, would Shabana Mahmood, would still makes me laugh, Ed Miliband, would that make any difference?
I don't actually think a change of leader right now would make any difference, Julia, because of precisely what you've just said. The in-tray is still there, and the economic woes of the country are not going to simply change just because we change the occupant of number 10 and number 11. I think the problem Labour has got, and it is something that is, I think, intrinsic to the party, we do believe as a party in the power of the state. But I think what we need to do is go back to the days when Blair was Prime Minister and actually believe in the power of the private sector. If you make it more expensive to employ people, people will lose their jobs. If you tax business too high, business in the world we live in today, we're mobile, you can move abroad or to other countries, they will do that. We need to make the UK a competitive country, a low regulatory country. We need to ensure that when a business sets up here, it's got confidence that it's going to have a long-term opportunity to grow and do well without the Chancellor coming along and taking every penny of profit they earn. We need incentives in the tax system. At the moment, there's... Sorry, Julie.
No, but you're speaking almost there. You're the chief executive of the Independent Business Network, because business matters. Because as Tony Blair was always very clear about, Labour isn't opposed to business, and business hasn't necessarily been opposed to Labour. But there's nothing you said there that anyone who's ever worked in the private sector would disagree with. Rachel Reeves, who doesn't even know what she did when she worked at Halifax Bank of Scotland at HBOS, and even remember what her job was there, for goodness sake. I mean, how does she not get it? If you put up national insurance for employers, not only is it, as it was, a manifesto breach, but also it's literally a tax on jobs. That's what she did. And then what a surprise, we've seen 1,000 jobs a day being lost on the latest stats. It's not a mystery to anybody, but she did that. So wouldn't a change of personnel help there? Was actually she is one of the most incompetent, I would say economically illiterate chancellors we've ever had, and she needs to go rather than Keir Starmer.
I think clearly, and I'm going to try and be as generous as I can here. When the Chancellor come in, I'm in a kind mood this morning, Julia. When the Chancellor was appointed last year, she did say that the tax increases on employers would be a one-time budget. Now, there's no indication now that we are looking at further tax rises, I believe, in the coming budget. But she did stipulate last year that there wouldn't be any further increases on employers. And I certainly hope that that is the case, because right now, with unemployment increasing and with our economy flatlining, putting extra costs on business at this time would frankly be madness. And anyone that do that, frankly, should be turfed out at this particular stage.
Absolutely.
I think the big thing in this country is we're far too dependent on the city, Julia. We need an economy that's rebalanced, that allows industry to invest and to actually profit from it. We need to do something, therefore, on net zero to reduce those energy costs. It's absolute madness that we've got this beautiful treasure at the bottom of the North Sea, extra oil and gas and fracking, and we're not allowed to use it. That's bonkers. Why would you not use this gift from God that's just off our shore? We also, the planning reforms, they've not gone as far as she should have. Frankly, I think we need to overhaul local planning. I mean, I've been in local government for years, and perhaps your other guests have been in planning as well. the number of people that can object on minute, non-issue grounds and hold up an application is madness.
Yeah.
You go across to Germany and China and these other countries and you see bridges flying up everywhere and hospitals and roads and factories, and over here it just seems to take forever. We need to ride a coach and horses through planning regs in this country.
Yeah.
And then similarly as well, you know, we shouldn't be in the business of telling people how to live their lives, you know, in terms of whether they should be drinking, whether they should be smoking, eating out.
Yeah.
Business needs to run itself.
Can I just say, I would vote Brendan Chiltern for Labour leader right now. I mean, come, let's put someone.
I wouldn't. He's a
Everyone's
drunk.
nodding. Everyone's nodding. It's fascinating. They're all sane people. I mean, you know, Brendan Chiltern, Ed Miliband. I think we know the answer to that one. Brendan Chiltern, lovely to get you on. Great to hear from you. You're in far too generous a mood, but I'm sure you know you've got party ambitions to follow. Labour Councillor, Chief Exec of the Independent Business Network. Thank you for that, Claire. I mean, we were both nodding along to quite a lot of that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, spoken like a true Tory in my words. It really was. So thank you for that, Brendan. I thought that was
He's waving away,
sensible.
going, no.
Sport his street
But again, it's not like a true Tory, but it's just sane.
It is.
It's people who can understand basic
reasonable.
maths.
And why are there not more people like that in the Labour Party? Because he is incredibly sensible. He is right on so many issues.
I mean, he sounded far right to me. If he'd mentioned immigration, he'd probably been considered far right. I mean, on the left. The thing is, no one who talks that sanely is going to be leader of the Labour Party.
And
That's
it's
the
a
trouble.
real shame.
That's the trouble. We're stuck with them till 2029, guys. 2029. 10:49 is at the time. I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to talk to the Adam Smith Institute's Maxwell Marlowe about where we are with all these benefits and what the hell's going to happen in the budget. That's up next. This is Talk.
December 3rd is when Meghan's Christmas special is coming out.
What's the Christmas special? What?
Yeah, I mean, what do you do when you have no family members that you still talk to? How do you execute a Christmas special? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, what's so interesting to me is that the Kardashians have since removed all the pictures that they had posted of Harry and Meghan from the event.
They just don't get any luck, do they? Even the Kardashians, and then, you know, let's be honest, they're not the higher echelon echelons of society, financially there, they want nothing to do with them now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Morning, welcome back to the show. 10:53 is the time. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Let's talk more about the economy, because, wow, we're going to talk a lot about that over the next few weeks. Budget 2 weeks today. Maxwell Marlowe is on the line. He's Director of Public Affairs at the Adam Smith Institute. They're a free market think tank. Good morning to you, Maxwell.
Good morning, Julia. How are you?
Oh, very well indeed. Always good to talk to you. I just want to ask you first about the shenanigans going on at number 10, all about the budget. Basically, there's going to be a challenge possibly, by Cabinet Minister Keir Starmer immediately after the budget if it goes down badly. Look, the reality is the budget's going to go down badly.
It will go down badly. Now, I've spoken to some Labour sources of mine who are working in and around the Labour Party. They think that essentially Morgan McSweeney, who is the sort of dark arts professional behind Keir Starmer and his government, has essentially attempted to head off a leadership challenge by putting out Wes Streeting and briefing against him. There's a slight problem with that, though. Wes Streeting is probably one of the most capable and eloquent ministers in this government, and I'll say I think he absolutely smashed it. He actually did something this morning that politicians shouldn't do, which is make me laugh. I told some very funny jokes.
Everyone's been working. I'm not doing a plot. I also didn't kill JFK. I didn't. He was a good performer. But the reality is, this is going to be a very tough. It's going to be a tough few weeks for the government. Tougher for us. Tougher for the taxpayer in terms of what we're going to expect. And it's all on the backdrop of various different stats on the front pages of the papers today. 1 million more people now claiming benefits without any requirement to look for a job, i.e. because they're considered too mentally or physically unwell to do that. 4 million people in total. Number of benefit claimants never having to work, say hitting 4 million for the first time. 1,000 jobs a day being lost thanks to that jobs tax, national insurance rise under Rachel Reeves. Those are not good stats. We've got unemployment at 5%. We've got inflation determinedly not coming down way above where it should be, according to the Bank of England's target of 2%. There is not a single good stat out there, is there?
Unfortunately not, no. And we're a little bit wonky about the growth prospects for this country as well. If that doesn't change, we are in for a world of hurt, fundamentally. This is what happens, Julia, fundamentally, when you reject the lessons of the free market, when you don't bring taxes down, when you don't reduce those big burdens on employers. We see this employment rights bill steamrolling its way through Parliament, hundreds of pages of legislation, which are essentially new taxes on employers. It's going to put up costs for employers. It's going to make them much less likely to employ people. And something I'm really concerned about, speaking as a young person and looking around most of Europe and the Western world, is youth unemployment. Yeah. And we hear a lot of headlines saying, oh, young people, they're too lazy to work, or, this, that, the other. The fact is, I know people who've sent out hundreds of job applications, have heard nothing back. Yeah. Why would you take on a young person now when they've had to suffer through the indignity and tyranny of lockdown, deprived of education and training, and are just thrust suddenly into the working environment with little recompense? So this is a serious issue. It's no wonder young people are getting increasingly radicalised. If you're a young man, you'll go to Reform. If you're a young woman, you'll go to the Greens or your party. So it's a really sticky issue, and we need to return to good free market reforms on this one.
And again, that's the worry, because the message that's come out from Rachel Reeves and again from Labour is this: we'll tax the rich, we'll tax the employers, because they're somehow exploiting people in a terrible way by giving people a job. It's an utterly bizarre idea that people who are running a business, employing people and providing a service or goods that people want to purchase are in some way exploiting people. This is like sixth form debating society, for communists. It's embarrassing that that's the level they're at. But the reality is, we don't have enough people in work. We don't have enough people paying taxes, and we have too many people who are frankly on the take.
Totally. Look, if you look at, I mean, we did something at the Adam Smith Institute called the State Reliance Index. We looked at the number of people who are reliant in part or in whole on the state, and that being taxpayers, for their livelihoods. This varies from students through to people employed in HR. We know that's gone up massively through to people who work in the NHS. 52% of the British working population are reliant upon the state for their income.
Is that working? So is that the workers or working age?
Working age, yeah, fundamentally. And
so what does that include? So more than half of people employed, what, in the public sector, claiming benefits?
Claim benefits, also people who have jobs that are only there because the government says that job needs to exist.
Required.
And, we're looking at people who work in planning offices through to people who are doing kind of HR administration, enforcing the Equality Act, whatever else. It's stuff like that. So you're right, Julia. We have too many people who are, stuck on basically the taxpayer dole, all the obligations of taxpayers, and those poor business people who are taking massive risks. They're remortgaging their houses. They're setting up shops. They're paying all the tax. They are at the pointy end of the stick here, and it looks like this budget is going to have nothing good for them fundamentally. They're on the hook for more tax rises.
The people who create the wealth, who deliver the growth, and you're going to punish them while putting more people, on the payroll of the state. I mean, again, taxpayers are going to say, you can keep squeezing us, but the pips are absolutely squeaking now. Maxwell Marlowe from the Adam Smith Institute, thank you very much indeed for that. We'll talk more about that with Claire Pissell, who's joining me in the studio and for the whole of the show. Lots more top guests coming, lots more to talk about, including the small matter of, not really sure how many people who've been imprisoned are actually behind bars. Just not really sure about that. And why the French, for some reason, are doing even less about stopping those boats coming to us, despite Keir Starmer being on such good terms with Emmanuel Macron. That's all coming up. This is Talk, the Home of Common Sense.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back to the show. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. This is Talk with the Home of Common Sense, whether you're listening on DAB Plus Radio or on your smart speaker watching on YouTube or your connected device. Thank you so much for joining me. Lots to talk about today. Don't forget, if you've missed anything, go to my YouTube page. The Julia Hartley-Brewer Show is what we called it, so it's nice and easy to find. Hit subscribe, you never have to miss a thing. Coming up in this hour, we are going to be talking more about Downing Street, insisting that Keir Starmer will fight any challenge to his leadership amid claims of an attempt to oust him that could come as soon as after the budget, 2 weeks today, not even waiting till after the May local elections. The PM's supporters have accused Health Secretary Wes Streeting and Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood of plotting, not a coup, but separate coups. But this morning, Wes Streeting came out fighting and he strongly denied any plot to oust the PM. He's hit out at Number 10 staff, saying they should be sacked, and also accused them of having a toxic culture. Meanwhile, French police are stopping fewer migrants from crossing the Channel since Keir Starmer struck up that deal with Emmanuel Macron to crack down on small boats. Just over a quarter of migrant crossings are actually prevented by French police since that deal was implemented in August. Meanwhile, a High Court judge, we spoke this on the show yesterday, ruled that asylum seekers can continue to be housed in Epping's Bell Hotel. The ruling followed protests by local people and a bid by the local council to stop asylum seekers being housed in that hotel, prompted by the sexual assault of a 14-year-old girl by an asylum seeker. Plus, we've got those latest round of junior doctors' strikes, have we not? Coming up on Friday, and the head of the NHS, Sir Jim Mackey, has instructed hospitals to proceed with nearly all planned operations during that 5-day strike. This as we had some more reforms and the cost of paying out those redundancies discussed by Wes Streeting when he wasn't defending himself against this accusations of a plot today. Also, we've got this extraordinary situation with the BBC and the outgoing Director General Tim Davie basically saying that, BBC's enemies are the ones who are to blame for the big fuss over the Donald Trump doctored documentary. Yeah, we're all at fault for your bad journalists. He says that the BBC's journalists are the very best of society. Oh, well, I'm sorry we can't match up to your wonderful level of virtue, Tim Davie, but I think it just shows how utterly delusional the management of the BBC is on that. Anyway, lots to talk about. I'd love to hear your thoughts in particular about this plot that isn't a plot, might be, but we don't know, coming from apparently Wes Streeting, although he denies it. Downing Street think that he is plotting to try and oust the Prime Minister. What's your reaction to all of that? Is a change of personnel the solution? In each case, who would be better than Keir Starmer? Votes Fred Miliband or David Lammy? Anyone? Bueller, anyone? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Do get in touch. 0344 499 1000. Get in touch on text as well at 87222. On X at talkTV. Calls are charged at the national rate. Text costs £1. Standard network rate message. Joining me for all the chat today, delighted to say, as always, Claire Pearsall, former Conservative Government Advisor. Morning to you.
Morning.
We've got to start again with this fun and games between Wes Streeting and Number 10. What on earth anyone was thinking with this? I mean, clearly this went out from the highest level, Number 10. Yeah. So, finger being pointed at Morgan McSweeney. I don't know which job he's in this week. I mean, they changed staff like I changed my knickers, frankly. Yeah. I mean, genuinely, Morgan McSweeney, Chief of Staff, Director of Communication, whatever the hell he is these days. But this briefing's come against, senior figures in the cabinet. They've briefed against Angie Rayner before when she was Deputy PM. They've briefed against Lucy Powell, against Bridget Phillipson. Wes Streeting did congratulate them today, actually coming after the boys instead of just going after the women. But he's denied it all. And basically says they've been watching too much Celebrity Traitors and it's all a nonsense. But it says there's a toxic culture at Number 10 and people need to be fired for doing this briefing. I mean, here's the thing. What were they thinking? What do they think they would gain from actually putting out this story and leaking it to all these different media organisations?
I don't know. And I think this is the really damning aspect of this. A lot of us are just sitting here sort of shrugging our shoulders going, I don't know what you wanted to achieve. I don't know how you were going to achieve it. And what is the end goal? Because none of these things make sense. Yeah. And I was watching it last night when it was unfolding, when the briefing was coming out, and you just think a bunch of 10-year-olds at Number 10 has decided that this would be a really jolly wheeze and you can get a lot of other people into trouble, especially Wes Streeting, who was out on the media round this morning.
I mean, but you'd also know that Wes Streeting is really good at the media round. He was really funny. He was saying, you know, things like, I'm not plotting. I'm not responsible for, assassinating JFK.
Yes.
All the moon landings being faked, or, I mean, he went through a whole load of things, and he was quite derisory about it, but he can handle himself. So what have they achieved? He's pledged loyalty. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So now what? But if it all goes, technical term, tits up after the budget, as it's likely to do, and the polls plunge even further, and everyone's demanding the head of Rachel Reeves on a spike, and ultimately the Prime Minister's, that's not going to stop a leadership plot.
No, and of course it is. I mean, it never would. And this is what I mean. This is why I don't understand, because all you've done is succeed in making Wes Streeting look really, really good. He's gone out there.
Quite
he's
leadership-y.
Personable. He's been user-friendly.
Funny.
He's made jokes. I quite like him. I have to admit, I think he's very good.
Is there an issue here that maybe, like with every single story that comes out of Number 10, they're just not very good?
Yeah, I think
there's a lot of hubris. They really do. I mean, they think they're the bee's knees. Look at that amazing, we turned it around after Corbyn. It's an amazing election victory, blah, 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 which was mostly an election defeat for the Tories. And they just believe their own publicity.
They do, and there's such a small circle of individuals that they don't ever seem to step outside and go and talk to anybody else. Even their own party they don't speak to. They're closeted up in Number 10. They think they're brilliant. They think they're very, very strategic and masterful.
They do.
And when you step out of that bubble, sometimes you have to take a long, hard look at yourself, and they can't do that. They
just
have
not very good at
no
it.
self-awareness.
Well, I mean, in less than an hour's time, Keir Starmer's going to be at PMQs. I wonder whether Kemi Baden will ask about any of this, but then she faces her own woes. She's basically got Robert Jenrick sitting there going, hi, in the background, and others, of course. Katie Lamb's been mentioned a lot lately, hasn't she? But basically, a lot of people were very unhappy with the Tories over chaos management, the economic crisis, you name it. But what they particularly didn't like was the infighting, changing leaders, party leadership contest. People don't like it. They really, really don't like it. You're talking about each other. You're talking about yourself. You're not talking about us. You're not worrying about us. And we are struggling. We're not, we're going out to work every day, or increasingly people not bothering to go out to work every day. We'll talk about that in a moment. And we need you to be focusing on us. And the reality is they're not. It's all about it's rubbing shoulders and trying to get ahead, as opposed to worrying about people. And at the end of the day, voters will not look kindly on any of this.
Well, they won't, and they didn't. So I think last year was a testament to that. The Conservative Party absolutely decimated at the polls, and probably deservedly so for an awful lot of the actions that took place. We did go through leaders like we were changing underwear, and it's not a good look to get somebody in office and then get rid of them because you don't like them.
And here's the thing again, as we were discussing with the previous guest, the stuff in the in tray, the numbers, the basic maths, none of it changes. No. Whether it's a blue rosette, a red rosette, a teal rosette, whether it's a Keir Starmer, or whether it's Wes Streeting, Shaban Mahmood, nothing changes. The numbers don't add up. You've got fewer people working, unless someone is willing to I mean, we are talking about gripping the bull by the horns. And I've made it very, very clear. I will be willing to leave my job and to go into a job where I don't care how much of a hate figure I become in terms of either mass deportations of illegal migrants, getting that sorted. I'm happy to do it when it comes. Happy to work in welfare and get people off. I'm literally no. You have to go and get a job. I'm genuinely of the view people will work when they're hungry enough. I would be as ruthless with other people's children as I would be with my own.
Yeah. About
work ethic, and I'm literally. I mean, workfare camps if that's what's necessary. I think this country needs such a massive shake. We literally need to take the country by the shoulders and shake everybody and go, wake up. Yeah. Wake up. Yeah. You cannot have these you can't have like Germany level, or Norwegian level benefits when you're not paying that level of tax. If you want that, you're going to have to pay more tax. You're going to lose the nonsense of the NHS, and you're going to have to go to an insurance system. Yeah, we'll pay for the poorest people, that's fine, but you're going to have a reality check on that. But you've got to get people off welfare, and I don't mean saving 5 billion quid. I mean millions of people being told, no, you're not eligible for welfare. Tough. Not going to happen. Yeah. There is so much that needs to be done. and it needs to be done urgently, because I think we are running out of time to turn our country around.
I mean, I don't disagree with you, and I think the problem that you've got with politics is that politicians are only ever looking in 5-year blocks.
Yeah.
So they're never going to do something which is going to affect them in 4.5 years' time. Now 3 years.
Yeah,
time,
but then you look at
whatever.
Millet in Argentina, and the prediction that he would get trounced in the parliamentary elections because actually, you know, people were having to really tighten their belts under his reforms to save the country's economy. Massive support for him, because people get it. But people always forget this. Austerity, so unpopular under Cameron and Osborne, 2010 under the coalition. Who won the 2015 general election? The Tories.
I know.
People aren't stupid. People get it. They get it.
And I think if they can see the point of what you're trying to do, even if they disagree with you, actually people will go,
you're not being cruel.
This is going to be painful, but...
Yeah.
And ultimately, I'm going to end up better off. I'm going to end up with, you know, much nicer house and a better job.
Does anyone think that Shabana Mahmood or Wes Streeting or David Lammy or Edmund, anyone else, do you think any of those people would do a better job than Keir Starmer? He's rubbish. Would they do a better job?
I think my cat would do a better job. I really, really do.
Vote Claire's cat. What's your cat called?
He's called Tango.
Vote Tango, everybody. I'm in the Tango party. I mean, look, 1 million more people claiming benefits without the need to look for a job, i.e. basically written off on the scrap heap of life. 4 million people in this country. We are unique in this country, unique around the Western world in having so many people who have such bad mental health problems. Oh, it's a lockdown. Oh, it's a lockdown. Oh, sod off. There were lockdowns in plenty of other countries. Stricter lockdowns in many other countries than ours. By the way, they didn't have any fewer deaths as a result. Funny that. And people getting, and 1,000 jobs a day being lost because of Rachel Reeves's jobs tax. We are in an economic crisis.
We are, and this always happens, and I think the figures take a little bit of understanding as well. There is an enormous increase, no doubt about it, and there shouldn't be.
And it's recent.
It is recent. It's since what is it? Since up 50% since the Prime Minister came into power.
I mean,
that's quite a lot, isn't it? It's a lot of people
but why?
sitting
What do you
around.
think's behind that? I mean, I've had a few mental health problems since Keir Starmer's been Prime Minister.
Trust me.
I
could be sitting rocking in a corner, but I'll still turn up for work. I don't know. There's a lot of things. If you start to unpack it, the migration from legacy benefits onto universal credit will increase the figures, because you've taken everybody off of varying different benefits and saying you now claim universal credit.
Yeah.
That will account for an increase. The new increase with people with leave to remain, indefinite leave to remain, that I think needs to be looked at. That's a worry. People with refugee status now claiming also needs to be
they basically, as soon as they've got that status, then they're entitled.
So we need to look at that.
Which is weird, because, as you know, these people are all working as engineers and doctors.
Well, they are. I
just want to make that point every day. Just want to make that point. These people are all net contributors.
And then you've got those who claim that they cannot work through ill health. Now, there are some genuine people out there who cannot work because of the condition that they have. That's a small percentage.
And we need to help those people, because we're a civilised society.
Of course we do. A friend of mine's got MS.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, absolutely give all the help to him. He has worked up until a certain point.
But you're genuinely not helping. You're just not helping
if
people
someone's a bit anxious.
Yeah. I mean, you know, again, it's so painful. It's so painful. I tell you what, I'd be a bit anxious if I worked at the BBC, because I don't think the BBC is going to survive. Not its enemies, but actually the enemy within, which is their abject, delusional. I don't know. I mean, just their delusional idea of their own virtue. Tim Davie, the outgoing Director General, spoke for 40 minutes to BBC staff yesterday. He praised them. He praised how wonderful they were. He talked about how this was all the BBC, the bias scandal about the BBC engulfing the corporation was really down to the enemies of the BBC, inside and outside. And he said the broadcast was the very best of society. And as we were discussing an hour ago, the reality is, they do think that. They think they've not done anything wrong, even though they defrauded the public with a blatant splicing of two different 54 minutes apart sections of Donald Trump's speech. Deliberate. The only purpose of that was to mislead the viewer. Yeah. Everyone involved, from top to bottom, in that document should be sacked and never allowed to work again for the Beeb. Anyone who knew about it and didn't speak about it openly should be sacked. Anyone who criticised the whistleblower, Michael Prescott, should be sacked. Yeah. And if you're a media organisation, you don't welcome a whistleblower. You ain't a media organisation. And it's just absolutely shocking. But it's the fact that he thinks they're the very best of society. You're not even the best broadcaster. let alone, I mean, who watches the BBC anymore? But you know, if they think they're the best of society, they think they're better than us. They think that they are nicer, kinder, better, more moral, more virtuous people than, you know, I mean, certainly scum like me, you know, far right bigots, you know, on channels like mine, you know, and they think that their audience, they think their job is to educate through propaganda and indoctrination, you know, the plebs of Britain who like the Union flag and think we should have borders and think we should have cheap energy rather than having old people die in winter because they can't afford their, you know, think that people should go out to work and be able to feed their own kids. Those awful, horrible bigots. Yes, you. I'm talking about you. You awful human being. I mean, but that's what they think.
It is. I always find it's almost like a cult as well. This, you know, the very best.
She said
society.
cult. It was an L. It was an L.
There was an L. Absolutely. Just a hello, Ofcom. They believe that they are better than us.
Really do.
And we are the mere mortals that need to be told what to think.
Who pay for their wages.
Absolutely. They haven't seen the way that media is moving. They haven't seen the changes in the way people view news, they view programming. People want it at the time that they want it. Streaming services are taken off.
But I mean, they are doing a lot of that, but they just think they've got a God's given right.
Absolutely. They haven't really moved on, though, with that, whereas other channels have, and they've adapted and they've produced other products and they've got more people out there listening to them and watching them through different avenues. The BBC is so stuck because it's got the licence fee.
Yeah,
it's so
and that's the thing.
In
their
what
budget,
they do.
and I've said to a former director general of the BBC actually, he was talking about, he was doing some cuts, and we were sitting in a green room about to go on I think it was BBC Telly, and I said, you know, seriously, you could cut half the staff, wouldn't affect output. I know when I would do like a newspaper review on, say, Sky News or on the BBC, I mean, Sky News would be one person who'd call me, book a car, the papers, you know, there you go, what do you want to talk about? Lovely jubbly, thank you very much. And we're more streamlined than Sky, I can assure you that. And then the BBC, there'd be at least 10 people who had Oxbridge degrees with clipboards getting involved, nothing of any use. And you think, what? How? And they're all sitting there when they're, you know, reading The Guardian, drinking their chai lattes. I mean, genuinely, it's flabbergasting how many people they've got employed doing absolutely. But anyway, it is shocking. We're paying it. We're paying for it. Let's also, Donald Trump saying he's got an obligation. He says he is going to sue the BBC for $1 billion over that Dr. Panorama speech. At the end of the day, I quite like the fun and games over that, but it is our money.
It is our money. I mean, we mustn't forget that we would be paying that.
Unless it came out of, like, you know, Tim Davies and Deborah Turness's pension. Quite happy for that to go towards it.
Yeah, it's never going to happen, is it? They've got that stitched up nicely, I should imagine.
And they're going to go on to super duper other jobs as well.
Well,
you just know that.
Of course they are. I mean, you can see they're not really that bothered that they've just had to resign.
They did nothing wrong, and there is nothing wrong with the BBC, and there's no institutional bias. They've both said that.
Yeah. I mean, it is gobsmacking. I mean, there are so many problems with it. I don't like the use of the word obligation, though, by Donald Trump. I'm not sure that's what he means.
I mean, it's pompous, isn't it?
Yeah.
But again, if he gets the full apology, they'll have to pay out something.
Yeah, they will do, and they deserve to be fair.
Yeah, but again, it's us paying for it, which I've got an issue with. But again, if it's us paying for it, then I'm really sorry. But more heads are going to have to roll for me. Let's talk about the France stopping fewer small boats under the Starmer deal. Just a quarter of boats are getting stopped now. That's since that deal was implemented. You know, the big little exchange program. We had a just, you know, and a second migrant who came here, was detained, was deported to France at a great expense on a British Airways flight. Other airlines, cheaper airlines, are available, and then has come back here. I'm assuming and I've written in The Sun before, I'm absolutely assuming that the migrant smugglers are now offering, you know, 2 for the price of 1 deals and guarantee if you get sent back, don't worry, we'll take you back for a cheaper price or for free. Guaranteed you can stay in Britain. He's come back. The government claims this is a victory because they've identified him and they're going to send him back, which is a joke. But, I mean, France basically not doing the thing that we pay them, what, $750 million to do?
Shock. I'm shocked.
We're all shocked.
Okay, well, the French haven't done anything. I have been over there. I have spoken to French interior ministers. I've stood on.
This is when you worked at the Home Office.
When I worked at the Home Office, and we didn't have such a large problem as we do now.
Well, was a lot of Gaelic shrugging.
There was.
I think where you did. I don't know.
There was. I mean, there was an awful lot of that.
Not my problem.
We were standing on a beach at midnight in January.
It
was so cold, it was so dark, and there'd be just people sort of standing around going, well, this is your problem. And that was back in 2018. They said, this is your problem.
They were still coming through lorries.
They were, and we were trying to desperately deal with fences around the port. But it is not surprising. It is not in France's interest to do anything to help us.
I think it is, because lots of people are only going through France to get to the UK, and therefore they wouldn't be going. They know they're going to be badly treated in France, and so they wouldn't go to France if they. Oh no, genuinely, I think they're missing a trick here. But I think politically it doesn't work. I mean, I don't know. I'm assuming Macron will end up in prison like every former French president, yeah. So that then we can have our last laugh. I do not think that legal reasons. Let's also talk about the decision by a High Court judge yesterday, the Epping hotel, the Bell Hotel, that was the centre of those protests, and we're going to be talking to a guest who's been involved in those a little bit later, over asylum seekers, which those protests started, let's not forget, after a 14-year-old girl in her school uniform was sexually assaulted by a migrant who subsequently has been imprisoned and then accidentally freed, absconded, 2-day manhunt, and has now been deported to Ethiopia with 500 quid of Euro money in his pocket. Story just gets better. But basically, the local council went, hold on a minute, Epping, Bell Hotel, you didn't get planning permission. Yeah. We don't want you to house the asylum seekers there anymore. The local people don't want it. But they basically have lost that, and asylum seekers can be housed there. Again, I mean,
it's amazing how much of life comes down to planning. As you were talking about with Brendan Chilton earlier, planning laws are one of the things that underpin this country. It's the one thing that gets everybody agitated. And in this case, you have a hotel which has got a change of use to not being a hotel. And the judge seemingly has said, well, actually it's fine. You've still got people staying there, you've still got people in rooms, so therefore it's fine. And it's like, well, no, right, the planning laws in this country are such that the local authority gave them permission to open as a hotel, not as a hostel.
Well, and that's the thing, my local hotel that is now a hostel, I've checked, there's been no planning application to change the status. But again, if they close the hotel, they're going to be put into local housing. I don't want them in either. But the closing of the hotels is simply a PR move. It's a money-saving exercise and a PR move. But that means that those people will be just living, next door to you, as opposed to the end of the road in the hotel where you know where they are. And I'm sorry, given again, no one is saying that every single one of those young men is a sex offender or a violent thief, but too many of them appear to be so.
Yeah. Well,
and therefore...
And I think we don't know, and I think that the communities that have those hotels want to be heard and listened to, and they don't feel like they are. And I agree with you.
They don't feel like they are because they're not.
No, and I agree with you. I don't want them sort of put into houses of multiple occupation in a street where there are children and we don't know where they are.
But also, local people need those homes. That's the reality, don't they? So much more to talk about. I want to hear from you. Calls on any and every topic, particularly on the madness of this sort of toxic culture at Number 10, where they're briefing against cabinet ministers. I mean, they've briefed against virtually everybody, haven't they? I mean, basically, they'll be briefing against the Prime Minister next. They don't really need to brief against him. He does enough of a bad job himself. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of that. 0344 499 1000 or anything else we've been talking about. Lots more top guests coming and your calls. This is Talk.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now. Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Morning, welcome back to the show. 11:29 is the time. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Claire Pearsall also still here. Just seen a picture of Tango the cat. We are moving. Sod anyone else. Tango the cat party. I'm voting Tango. Vote Tango party. Come on.
Got to have it. He is an orange cat.
And he'll talk a lot more sense than the orange man, the orange cat. I'm just saying, there's a message in the universe there. Anyway, let's go to your calls. Andrew's in Hertfordshire. Andrew, you want to talk about how well it's all going at number 10, don't you?
Yeah, vote Tango. He's the cat's whiskers.
Yay! Love it.
Do you know what? There was some grimacing in the control room there. They were like, "Oh no, Andrew." We loved it.
Here we go. So the thing that we're all focused on is not where Keir Starmer is. He's gone missing again.
Yeah.
We're not talking about immigration or Lammy.
Mm-hmm.
We're focused on nothing.
Yeah.
Streeting is more dangerous than anyone.
Ooh.
Look at his position on trans, a position he changed. He's in charge of health. Nurses want to go to work and go in a changing room for women, and he's not solved that.
He could have done that day one. The Supreme Court ruling made that really simple. There's still that ongoing tribunal, although it's about to come to conclusion.
Yeah. Think about it, Louis. What makes you think that incompetent fool could solve illegal immigration, rape gangs, or the economy? Nothing.
Is there anyone in Labour? Is there anyone in Labour you think? So a lot of people go, "Oh, Shabana Mahmood would be good," but I can't work out what. I mean, she's talked the talk, but I can't work out what her track record is.
No, the problem is they were in opposition too long and there's no depth to them. But I would join the Labour Party tomorrow. I'd vote Miliband in because that would just be, it'd be hilarious. He's deliciously, he's destined to go through life pulling doors, Mark Push.
That is literally the best description of that man I've ever heard. But genuinely, it would be funny for a few minutes and then the disaster would hit.
Yeah, but the markets will destroy them once the local elections happen. After this, once they were finished when they taxed jobs. We've done this before. Yeah. They were finished. Now, what's going to happen is that the budget will be shambolic. It'll annihilate Middle England. The votes next year will be horrific in the local elections, and he's gone and they're done by September next year because the markets, as Clinton said, the one thing he couldn't control was the bond markets. The bond markets will destroy the UK government's policies. Not the UK, it's not personal to us, but the price of money is going one way and it isn't down.
Yeah, absolutely. Andrew, that's fantastic. A really great call. I'm still chuckling about Miliband's gone through life pulling doors, Mark Push. Literally epitomise it. Anyway, thank you for that. Jason, you've got a hard act to follow there. Jason's on the line. Good morning to you.
Morning, Julia. Thanks for taking the call.
Thanks for calling.
Did you have a nice holiday?
I had a lot, mate. I can't even tell you I had a lovely holiday.
Where did you go?
I went scuba diving.
You didn't happen to see our missing Mr. Starmer sort of his little snorkel?
He wasn't. I was looking for him. I've got my little goggles on. I'm like, I never saw him. No, I saw some sharks, but you know.
Not Mr. Starmer. That's a shame, isn't it? You could have stuck your foot on his head, look, and sort of stopped him from re-submerging.
Oh, harsh. What do you make of where we are at number 10? Is it toxic? Is there a plot? Should there be a plot?
You've got to laugh, because otherwise you're going to cry, aren't you? I mean, it's just like a circus. It's like, who's the next ringmaster going to be? It's not going to get any better, because they're all tired of the same brush. They're all incompetent. They're all socialists. They're all left wing. It's not going to get any better, is it?
Do you think that Keir Starmer survives? Well, I don't think Rachel Reeves survives the budget. I mean, Keir Starmer's keeping her around to deliver the bad news of the budget, and then she's going to be the sacrificial lamb, I think, after the May elections. But do you think he survives?
Well, I reckon if Rachel Reeves goes, she's propping up Mr. Hindsight at the moment. If she goes, I reckon he's not going to be far behind. But wouldn't it be entertaining watching Mr. Lammy in PM questions? It'd be like
every week
all over again, wouldn't it?
I mean, it would be fun. I mean, genuinely, that's the thing. You think, if they're basically saying, look, it could be even worse after us, and you think, oh, it actually could. That's the scary thing. If Keir Starmer, Rachel Reeves are the grown-ups in the room in the Labour Party, that's how bad things are. Jason, thank you very much for your call, and Andrew as well. 11:34 is time. We'll take a quick break. Then we're going to be talking about, just the extraordinary situation where we've got a judge ruling that, the Bell Hotel in Epping does get the right to carry on housing asylum seekers. And why on earth is France not stopping as many boats as it used to? It was pretty hopeless before, but it's got even worse. Well, we're going to be talking to an Epping Forest resident, Sarah White, about that. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back to the show. 11:37 is the time. Well, let's talk about migration. I mean, instead of, government's failure to deal with anything and talking about themselves as per usual, let's talk about what is going on, not just in Epping Forest, but what's going on the beaches of Calais as well. Sarah White joins us. She's the Epping Forest resident and also one of the many campaigners against the asylum seekers being housed in the Bell Hotel. Of course, that was the scene that sparked those protests from the summer after a 14-year-old girl was sexually assaulted by an asylum seeker. Good morning to you, Sarah.
Morning, Julia. How are you?
Very well indeed. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. We had that announcement yesterday. We talked about it on the show briefly yesterday, that a judge in the High Court had ruled that, yes, the Bell Hotel can continue to house asylum seekers, even though local residents don't want them to, and indeed the local council's fighting. And we've had the bizarre situation of the Home Office fighting to keep the hotel open to asylum seekers, even though their official policy is to get asylum seekers out of hotels. What do you make of it all?
Well, I just think the whole process has just been quite insulting, because really we knew from the beginning we was never going to win. It was never going to go in our favour, because the moment they shut the Bell Hotel down, then all of a sudden what happens to all the other hotels? What happens to all of the men that are in them hotels? Where are they going to put them? We don't want them in the hotels in our community. We don't want them in HMOs. Yeah. We don't want them put in social housing. So where does the Home Office expect them to go when they're saying they're going to have all of these hotels disused by 2029? They're not talking about the people that are in them.
Yeah. Absolutely. And of course we did have the absurd situation of the man who'd actually, well, again, found guilty, Hadush Kabati, the Ethiopian asylum seeker, found guilty of not just assaulting a 14-year-old girl in her school uniform. Oh, was she over 16 or over 18? No, she was in a school uniform. And also a woman who sort of, came in to sort of help her. And then him being released by accident, a 2-day manhunt, for goodness sake. And then finally caught and then deported. I mean, the whole thing has been a farce.
Yeah, it has been. And you know what? No one took a moment to think about how that affected that family of the young girl that was sexually assaulted, because it's just the whole process from start to finish. The way he was arrested like, oh, come on, it's okay, don't worry, don't get upset, everything will be fine. Then he's been put in prison, gets a pathetic sentence of 12 months and only serves 4 months of that, and then is let out and then given £500 to keep his mouth shut. That's a whole year's wages where he's from. It's utterly disgusting. And our government are to blame for all of this, because they are the ones that are allowing these men to come here. They're giving them benefits left, right and centre, and then we're the ones that are left footing the bill.
And not just footing the bill, because it's not just about the cost, it's about safety, and that is the issue. You, along with many other campaigners, we've spoken to Orla Minahan, as well, who's been mums, aunts, sisters, grandmothers, daughters, worried about safety, because again and again and again, this thing that never happens keeps happening, where young women and girls are being sexually harassed, even raped. They've got numerous other cases, some, some allegations, some going through the courts, some already convicted, and this is happening again and again and again and again, and people don't want the risk.
And we don't feel safe. And it is true, we don't feel safe. And that is the most crucial thing, is safety. Yeah. It is a fundamental right of this country. Well, I'm in Poland right now, but it's a fundamental right of the UK.
By the way, the Poles don't put up with any of this nonsense.
No, they don't. And you know what? I walked around the other night. It was very late. I was walking down all sorts of streets, walking back to the hotel. Not one point did I feel unsafe. And it's so clean. It's just refreshing to be somewhere where you actually feel safe. And I went to their Independence Day yesterday, and wow, what a crowd. It's something to be said, and we've got a lot to learn from the Poles.
Well, I do think we really do. But you say it's the government's fault. Where do you put the blame in terms of the French government, though? Because the French police now, despite getting £750 million of yours and my money as well, they're apparently preventing fewer migrants from crossing the Channel since Keir Starmer struck that deal with his big mate, Emmanuel Macron, to crack down on small boats. Remember, he was going to smash the gangs. And just over a quarter of migrants' attempts, so 28% to cross the Channel, are being stopped by the French police. I mean, look, like they know about all the attempts, but as we know, a lot of the time they just stand around and watch them, and then they'd watch them go into the international waters and the British waters. And they go, there you go, your problem, not our problem. How much do you blame them?
Well, let's face it. Why would the French want them there? So they're quite happy for them to come over to us, so they're not going to stop them. We know what France really thinks about us. There's a long history between the French and the English, and they're just being given this money to do nothing. And we say about Keir Starmer smashing the gangs, he couldn't smash MASH. So, he's a pathetic excuse of a man. At the end of the day, all we have to do is stop the benefits and we could patrol our own borders instead of wasting money having police outside hotels on a weekly basis.
Where do you want these people to go, though? Because one of my concerns about getting people out of hotels, but okay, there's a big cost. I think it's £145 a night on average. I mean, I've stayed at hotels for weddings paying less than that. I don't know why they're paying that much for them. Versus £35 on average if they're in sort of basically a bed sit, a house of multiple occupancy. But the reality is, they want to close the hotels because they're focuses of local protests, like in Epping. And if you put them in, couple in this house, one over there, four over there, they're still there. They're still in the community. They're still here illegally. We're still paying for them, but we don't actually know exactly who they are. And there's not going to be such a big focus where, one man's convicted, another man accused of sex crimes from one particular hotel. So they want to basically get the problem off the front pages, don't they?
That's exactly what they want to do. And if I had the choice between them being dispersed into our community or staying in these hotels, I'd pick the hotels.
Me too.
However, at the end of the day, we built the Nightingale clinics rather quickly during COVID. Why aren't detention centres being built? They should all be put in there. Then they can be processed, and then we'll know exactly where they're from, and then they can be deported. It's not that difficult. But for some reason, our government are so incompetent of doing anything. So why on earth would they put these asylum seekers in a place to keep us safe?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the reality. This is what the vast majority of people wanted. It's not inhumane, it's not uncivilised. But at the end of the day, these people, after a few months living in that accommodation, perfectly humane accommodation, good enough for our serving soldiers, a lot of that accommodation, by the way.
Well,
they will want to go home.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Julia, but we talk about our soldiers. Look at the veterans, the thousands that are left on our streets, homeless, not cared about. I'm sure they'd like to be put up in a hotel and given free meals a day.
Yeah, exactly. And we were able to do it during lockdown, were we not? Can I ask you just finally also, this is about something that's happened in Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole Council. Peter Cooper, a Labour member of the Liberal Democrat-run council, basically quoted Vladimir Lenin, as migrant hotel protesters and were denounced as far right. He referred to the leader of the Russian Revolution as the authority condemned demonstrators. And basically, we've had this again and again and again. He says, Lenin said the lumpen proletariat will be organised against themselves for the benefit of the ruling class. That is what we are seeing today. And I mean, you're far right. The lumpen proletariat, you're basically scum and bigots because you're protesting against having undocumented illegal migrants living in a hotel at the end of your street.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you see Liam Tufts interviewed a counter-protester down in Crowborough the other day, and he said to him, how would you feel if one of these men were to rape your daughter? What would you think about that? And he said, well, I wouldn't blame them because they are refugees.
What?
He said, you can't blame all refugees. Well, he said, one is too many. So, this is the mentality of these people. And they call us far right, racist, fascist, thugs. And at the end of the day, all of them words have lost all meaning, all sense of the meaning. And I don't care. And it's quite sad times to actually not care that you're called a racist. Because I'm not a racist, but just because they say something doesn't make it true. And I actually believe that they're the racists.
Yeah,
I want to put it back on them.
Well, they affect a lower expectation of people because they're from abroad. Sarah White, you've been a fantastic campaigner on this issue. I so appreciate you taking the time to join us. She's an Epping Forest resident, also a campaigner on that issue. We'll kind of close the Bell Hotel in Epping. Thank you for joining us. I tell you what, good signal from Poland. We get worse signal in the office. Claire Pearsall, what do you make of what she had to say?
I think it's really, really interesting that all of the people that accuse Sarah, Orla, any of the other mothers of not being worthy of speaking haven't actually listened to them. They are articulate, they are caring. They do write them off, and they write them off as far right. And these are excellent bunch of women who I would quite happily have in Parliament, on councils.
I'll tell you what, often they're doing sort of little organised events, social events, look like a right good bunch.
They do. I didn't want to say that, but they do.
I have to say, let me come and I'd love to come down and join you, ladies.
Yes,
11:47 is the time. I'm going to take a quick break. What is going on in the NHS? As NHS boss is telling hospitals, do not cancel operations ahead of that latest strikes from junior doctors or whatever they're called this week that starts on Friday. This is Talk.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now. Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back to the show. 11:51 is the time. Just a few moments, we're going to get Prime Minister's questions with the Prime Minister, if he's still in the job. Who knows? Are there plots? Aren't there? What's going on? And he'll be taking questions, obviously, initially from the leader of the opposition, Kimmy Badenoch, and we'll take a lot of that, that live and see how it goes. In the meantime, let's talk about where we are with the NHS, because we've got yet another doctor's strike starting on Friday, and the NHS boss has said basically to hospitals, I don't want you to cancel all those planned operations. I want virtually all of them to go ahead. That's Sir Jim Mackey. But how is that going to be possible? Well, let's talk to Stephen Dorrell. He's former Health Secretary and former chair of the NHS Confederation. A very good morning to you.
Good morning, Julia.
Thank you for joining us. Well, look, I mean, I know, elderly relative of mine who had an operation cancelled, moved sort of, another appointment moved by 6 months because of a previous doctor's strike. But the NHS chiefs go, no, go ahead, keep everything going. How are they able to do that?
Well, when Jim Mackey says that he doesn't want to see any operations cancelled as a result of the resident doctors dispute, I'm sure he's speaking for everybody. None of us want to see operations cancelled for that reason. Which is why I think one of the reasons why I think the dispute that's being pursued by the resident doctors is so indefensible. We're talking about people who need treatment, who are on lists and have booked appointments,
and probably waited a very long time for them.
Waiting progressively longer for those appointments. And they're going to be told just before Christmas that they can't have their operation. They've got to wait even longer. So Jim's entirely right to say that we shouldn't be doing this. We shouldn't be in a position where the health service has to do it. But the unavoidable truth is that if doctors work fewer hours, then the capacity of the health service to treat its patients is reduced, and there will be fewer operations performed. I don't see any way of avoiding that.
And that's the reality, isn't it? And the government was elected on a pledge that they were going to sort out the resident doctors strike, junior doctors they were previously called. Again, they're not junior, a lot of these people, they've been working for years, and a highly qualified doctor. If you have an operation, it's very likely it's carried out by a so-called junior doctor.
Yes, you said earlier, Julia, whatever they're called now. Well, I do think the junior doctors was a misleading.
Yeah, exactly.
It was very misleading. These are senior people, professional people who should be looking after their patients.
Yeah, absolutely. But Wes Streeting, the health secretary, and he was a shadow. Look, we're going to sort it out. And they sorted it out by basically giving them everything they asked for. What was it, 22% pay rise? And guess what? They've come back for more. Now, we know that support for doctors and nurses when they go on strike has been very strong in recent years. It's like, they've lost a load of money and blah, blah, blah. And now, actually, they do not have majority support in this country. A lot of people very angry saying, look, read the room. We have seen those pledges on providing more appointments. That's moved on. But we still know there is a productivity problem in the NHS. They've got a heck of a lot more money, but they don't seem to be doing a heck of a lot more with it.
Well, I think that is also true. One of the factors in the health service is that partly because people have been on lists for longer, some of the conditions have become more serious, so they take longer to deal with. And that's part of the reason, of course, for wanting to eliminate the waiting list. Yeah. So it's the old thing that if you prevent a condition developing, then the individual is healthier and the health service is easier to manage. So you aim first to prevent illness, and then you aim to intervene early, not late.
Yeah, but we know the NHS was, to all intents and purposes, shut down to anything but COVID for 6 months, and a lot of people didn't get tests and routine tests that they would have got. But also, we are getting older. There are a lot more people who are older, and older people have a lot more ailments. Hi, Mum and Dad.
I have a mother of whom that's true too. Yes, you're right. But what you were also right in the earlier point, that there's a lot more money and a lot more people in the health service as well. So what we need to be better at in the health service, and I think that anyone who cares about engaging in the health service, as I still am, we need to be self-critical about the ability of the health service to use resources effectively, efficiently, to deliver better outcomes for patients. That is to say, to prevent and to intervene early, to avoid conditions developing that don't need to develop. And of course, that's exactly the opposite of if we have extended waiting lists, we're doing exactly the opposite.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're making people wait longer while they get iller, so it becomes more difficult to treat them and they become more unhealthy.
And indeed, and we know that, especially with things like heart disease and cancer, the longer they are left, the likelihood of survival is and we're way behind other Western countries on survival rates for a lot of these things already.
A really concerning report from the Nuffield Trust earlier this week saying that only 3 hospitals are meeting their cancer waiting time targets.
And the cancer waiting time targets are obscene anyway. That you get to see a consultant 2 months after your GP says, oh, you might have cancer. I mean, people die in that time. It's quite.
That's true, Julia. I agree with you, and it would be lovely to have it in less than 62 days, but 62 days would be a big advance on where we are now.
Yeah, I mean, that tells you how bad things are, and that is not the case in most other Western countries who don't pay that much more for their healthcare. Just finally, I want to ask you about this NHS bonfire of bureaucrats. Wes Streeting has unlocked a £1 billion fund needed to basically pay for 18,000 redundancies. This is where he's basically axing layers of bureaucrats and managers, many of them highly paid. NHS England, Department of Health and Social Care and local care boards, basically amalgamating a lot of them. But you have to pay these people off, and you and I both know that after these sort of reforms, these people nearly always get a big payoff and come back about 6 months later on the same money for someone else.
But look, I wish Wes Streeting well. I don't regard him as a bad man at all. But the truth is, they announced a policy to abolish NHS England in February. Here we are in November, and they're now making another announcement. Oh gosh, in order to abolish it, we're going to have to pay somebody.
Nothing gets done.
Would it not have been better to have thought it through in February?
Wait a minute. Sorry, a government thinking through a policy and plan it? Stephen, it's been a long time since you've been in government. You're going soft in the head.
Maybe I'm out of touch.
Soft in the head. Stephen Doyle, he's a former health secretary and a former chair of the NHS Confederation. Thank you very much indeed for that. Claire Pearsall, who's been listening to all that.
I do miss people like Stephen Dorrell because he is very sensible. He knows how this works, and it's a shame that we don't plan better in this country.
We can't get anything done. There's your summary. Anything done. But not every single NHS reform has always involved paying off a load of people six-figure sums and then hiring them back from similar sorts of salaries. But again, this doctor strike, I'm sorry, these doctors are completely not reading the room. No. People are done. And I know so many people who are really, really, low incomes who've used all their savings to pay for operations because they know they're going to spend years waiting for a knee op or something like that. It's just not good enough. They're destroying the NHS. Like the BBC, they're destroying it from the inside. 11:59 is the time. Coming up, we're going to get the news headlines, then we're going to get to PMQs with me, Claire and Peter Connell. That's up next. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Welcome back to the show. This is Talk. We are the home of common sense. It's 2 minutes past 12. We are going to go straight to PMQs just a few moments. But as you will have heard in the news, that News UK, the parent company of this station, Talk, has made the following statement. Their statement reads as follows. We were made aware of an abhorrent and vile post on Mike Graham's social platform several weeks ago. Mike Graham said this was not posted by him, and he agreed to cooperate with a company investigation using an independent forensic firm. He later reneged on several opportunities to cooperate with the company investigation. We have been gravely concerned at his repeated failure to cooperate on such a serious matter, and the decision has been taken that Mike Graham will not return to Talk. I'm afraid that is as much as I can say on that matter. I know that is going to cause a lot of upset and a lot of concern for a lot of our audience who've been with us for a very, very long time. But that is the official statement from the parent company of Talk, and that is where we are at in terms of Mike Graham, who will not be returning to this station. Let me introduce you to my guests in the studio. Claire Pistol is a former Conservative government advisor. She's been with me all morning. Peter Cardwell, of course, Talk presenter, political commentator many years as well, has joined us as well. And any moment now, we're going to go live to PMQs. Actually, we're going to go right now because Kemi Badenoch is about to get up. Let's go straight and hear what her first question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I associate my party with the Prime Minister's comments about Remembrance Week, and also his comments on Manfred Goldberg and Mervyn Kirsch, who is in the gallery today? Mr. Speaker, this morning on the BBC, the Health Secretary said there is a toxic culture in Downing Street that needs to change. He's right, isn't he?
Mr. Speaker, my focus each and every day is on rebuilding and renewing our country. But let me be absolutely clear, any attack on any member of my cabinet is completely unacceptable. On the Health Secretary, Mr. Speaker, in relation to Health Secretary, he promised before the election that in the first year of a Labour government we'd deliver 2 million extra appointments. We didn't deliver 2 million, or 3 or 4. We delivered 5 million extra appointments. And today the Health Secretary is in Manchester, where he's announcing that because of the action he's taken to abolish NHS England, he's putting more people on the front line. He's doing a great job, as is the whole of my cabinet.
Mr. Speaker, what we heard the Health Secretary say this morning was that he wants to cut waiting lists, but we all know that there's only one waiting list that he really wants to cut. But the Prime Minister is not going to do anything about the toxic culture. This is his responsibility. Just last night, his allies accused not just the Health Secretary, but the Home Secretary and even the Energy Secretary of launching leadership bids. These attacks came from Number 10, nowhere else, his toxic Number 10. The person responsible for the culture in Number 10 is his Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney. Does the Prime Minister have full confidence in him?
No. Morgan McSweeney, my team and I are absolutely focused on delivering for the country. And let me be clear, of course, Mr. Speaker, I've never authorised attacks on Cabinet members. I appointed them to their posts because they're the best people to carry out their jobs. Mr. Speaker, she asks about waiting lists. Waiting lists are down under this government. The number of GPs is up. Because we've scrapped NHS England, we're investing on the front line. That's what the Health Secretary is doing today, getting on with his job, and he's doing a very good job too.
Mr. Speaker, I didn't hear him give full confidence to Morgan McSweeney, but the truth is he says these attacks aren't authorised. That means he's lost control of Number 10, because that's where they're coming from. But the real scandal, Mr. Speaker, the real scandal is that 2 weeks from a budget, the government has descended into civil war. Instead of fixing the mess they've made of the economy, they're all... Mr. Speaker, they're all chuntering. These are the feral MPs that Number 10 has been talking about. They're not my words. They're Number 10's words, his words. But unbelievably, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's advisers have been reduced to briefing that MPs can't get rid of him, and I'm not making this up, they can't get rid of him because it would destabilise international markets. Why does the Prime Minister think that there would be a market meltdown if the Health Secretary took over?
Mr. Speaker, this is a united team and we are delivering together. Look what we're delivering. The fastest growth of the G7. 5 interest rate cuts. Trade deals with the EU, the US and India, all of which they oppose. We've delivered. And I can update the House.
If people want to audition for a pantomime, I suggest you go to the Old Vic.
Pantomime. Mr. Speaker, I can update the House. The Bank of England has upgraded growth today. We've secured £230 billion of private investment. And just this morning, I thought she might welcome it, the SSE have announced £33 billion of investment in clean power. That's what this team are delivering for the country, fixing the mess that they left.
Mr. Speaker, he's talking about growth and investment. While the Prime Minister desperately tries to cling on to his own job, perhaps he understands what it's like for all those people out there losing their jobs. How can he talk about growth? Yesterday, we learned that unemployment has risen to the same rate as it was in lockdown. 180,000 jobs lost, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah.
Why does the Prime Minister think that unemployment has risen every single month since Labour took office?
Mr. Speaker, let me give the House the details. 329,000 people more are in work since the start of this year. So 329,000 more are in work. Of course, I accept we need to do more in relation to unemployment. That's why we're transforming job centres, which they opposed. That's why we're working with 60 major businesses to tackle ill health in the workplace and invested £3.8 billion in tailored back-to-work support, which they opposed. I would also remind the Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Speaker, that the average unemployment in the 14 years of her government was 5.4%, higher than the rate today.
Mr. Speaker, we left employment higher than it was after the last Labour government. And let me tell him now, what is causing it is his disastrous budget last year. That is what has caused the increase in unemployment. And so, to be clear, for all those Labour MPs shaking their heads, it's last year's tax rises that have killed jobs, and that's what's going to trigger this year's tax rises. This is the tax doom loop, and there is only one way out of it, and that is to cut spending. So why is the Prime Minister instead offering welfare giveaways to save his own skin?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'll tell the Leader of the Opposition why we increased national insurance. It's because of the mess that they left the country in. The NHS on its knees. Now we've got 5 million extra appointments, waiting lists down, and 2,500 more GPs as a result of our decisions. But it's nearly the one-year anniversary, but she still hasn't told us in relation to national insurance whether she agrees and admits that we should do it, or if not, if that's her position, how she would find the money that we raised in the budget. She's had a whole year to think about that question. Perhaps now she can give us an answer.
Mr. Speaker, I wouldn't have made the stupid mistake in the first place of putting up the jobs tax and killing jobs. Since they came in, it's been disaster after disaster. The Deputy Prime Minister, the new Deputy Prime Minister, is clueless about how many illegal migrant sex offenders he's let loose. The Culture Secretary breaking the rules to give her donor a top job. Taxes set to rise even further. Unemployment at levels not seen since lockdown. And in the middle of it, a weak Prime Minister at war with his own cabinet. Mr. Speaker, it's not just him, it is all of them. There is no replacement, it is all of them. 2 weeks before the budget, isn't it the case that this Prime Minister has lost control of his government, he's lost the confidence of his party, and lost the trust of the British people?
Mr. Speaker, the stupid mistakes were made over 14 long years. They broke the economy, and now they think that they can lecture us. And now they've got this unserious idea that they can find £47 billion of cuts without saying where they're going to come from. No wonder that's called flimsy. Meanwhile, we're rebuilding the country. Wages up, investment up, mortgages down.
Order. Mr. Phil. You are meant to be a senior person on this front bench. You're meant to set an example. It's certainly a bad one today. Sir Jan Joseph.
Mr. Speaker,
Despite extra government funding.
Okay, right. Well, we are back. We are back after that quite a fiery PMQs there. The 6 questions from Kemi Badenoch, the Tory leader. I thought actually one of the most fascinating moments there was actually when the Prime Minister said, we are a united team. And there were just peals, I mean, laughter. I think even from some of the Labour backbenchers as well as across the floor of the House. Joining me in the studio to discuss PMQs is former Conservative Government Advisor Claire Pearsall, been with us all morning, and Peter Cardwell, talk presenter as well. We should note at the beginning, actually, that Keir Starmer welcomed Mervyn Kershaw, 100-year-old D-Day veteran, watching PMQs from the public gallery. Goodness me, he fought in the war. He's suffered enough. I mean, he's done his duty for our country, has he not? He doesn't need to be subjected to that. First of all, Peter, let me ask you, and then I want to ask you of you as well, Claire. Was it the right thing for Kemi Badenoch to go on what is fundamentally, I mean, we're talking about it today, but quite a Westminster bubble story about accusations of toxic culture and plots and oustings and tempting, between Wes Streeting and the PM. Was that the right topic to go on?
I think it probably was, actually, not for all 6 questions, and I'm glad she didn't do that, and she started talking about more substantive issues as time went on. But certainly given...
not first 3.
No, indeed, half of the time. And the point of PMQs, from the opposition's perspective, is to make the Prime Minister look bad. And when he said, we're a united team, what an utter load of codswallop. And of course everyone laughed, and there were loads of people shouting from the opposition benches, more. So I think Kemi Badenoch did her job. She was laughing, enjoying herself at one stage. Yeah,
I mean, there is an element, isn't there, when you're being laughed at. I mean, that's when you're really being damaged. Claire, do you think that was the right choice for her?
I do. I wish she'd only had 2 questions on it and then moved on to something else.
Let's talk about something more substantial.
Absolutely, and she started. And she started to do that, as Peter said. She started to list the level of failings of the government, and I think you could give that more airtime, because actually that's what the country needs to know. That's what the country needs to have pointed out.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting because basically saying, look, whether he's authorised, whether they're not authorised, is he going to, does he have full confidence that Morgan McSweeney is saying, these are clearly briefings from senior people. You either have to sack the person who's done it, or you admit that you've done it. And she pointed out, I didn't hear him say that he had full confidence.
Although that's not necessarily always a good thing, Julia.
No, as we know.
Angela Rayner,
Lord Mandelson, exactly. But she says, the government, in civil war, he's saying the PM's at war with his own cabinet, his party, he's lost the trust of the British people. But that's the reality. But that's where we are at. We're less than 500 days into this Labour government, a massive majority, more than 400 MPs, and they're fighting like
rats in a sack. They're absolutely nowhere. They're nowhere. And the final bit of what Kemi Badenoch said, I thought was particularly interesting, where she talked about the Culture Secretary in the BBC. She talked about the Deputy Prime Minister who keeps losing prisoners. It is chaotic. And when you say
taxes up, unemployment up,
and it's going to get worse with the budget in a couple of weeks' time. And when you get to a stage where you're saying, actually, if I go as Prime Minister, well, then there's going to be chaos in the international markets. Well, it just sounds as if your grip on reality is lesser and lesser as time goes on.
There is an argument, is there not, Claire, that actually, if there were change in leadership, that would signal chaos and that would worry the bond markets. And we've had a Labour Party saying it's outrageous. We don't want the money markets. The men in the stripy suits in the city shouldn't be deciding government policy. But they do, because they decide whether or not and at how much we can borrow money. And by the way, we have to borrow shed loads of money because we haven't got enough.
And that was clearly the line that was given to backbenchers last night, because whenever you heard this story come up, whether it was on social media or news channels, that was the line that they were pumping out. Well, the gilt markets won't like it. Now, these people
by the way, none of us really understand this stuff, let's be honest. Definitely not them.
They're definitely not them. They have no idea what they're talking about. They have no idea how it's going to affect the country, but they needed to say something. And I think the very fact that Downing Street had to give them such a poor line shows the chaos that they were in. They couldn't come out with a proper denial or a stonewalling or anything else. They made up something that sounded quite good.
It sounded good.
In all honesty, was absolutely
rubbish. But also, look, it's terrible now and we're useless, but it could be even worse.
Yes.
That's, I mean,
but the question,
I'm not entirely sure that's I'm not going to, don't put that on a poster and tell me to vote for it on a billboard.
It's really bad, but it could be worse. The point,
that was bad. That was the Tories. That was your campaign strategy last year, though, wasn't it?
It's not that
We're
bad.
rubbish. They're even worse.
They're even worse.
And to be fair, that was true.
Exactly.
And when Rishi Sunak says, if you drive it, they'll tax it. If you own it, they'll tax it. If you earn it, they'll tax it. He was right. So I think the point is as well, the question nobody's really asking about the Westminster Village story is, what would Wes Streeting bring that would be that different? He's a great communicator, but actually his politics are very similar. Not entirely similar, but they're similar-ish to Keir Starmer.
When they do polling of who, at the end of the day, it's the Labour Party members who are going to get to decide who is going to be the next Labour Party leader. They voted in Corbyn, for the love of God.
Very good point, well made.
And Ed Miliband some years ago. I mean, come on, we were saying earlier, it would be just for the laughs.
Have Ed Miliband as Prime Minister.
Yeah, as one of our callers said, absolutely brilliant. This is a man who's gone his whole way through life, pulling at doors that say push. That's just going to tickle me for the rest of the day. But this is the thing. Wes Streeting, I've got a lot of time for Wes. He's very personable. He's funny. He's chatty. He's bright. He's interesting, and he's a fantastic communicator. He has absolutely knocked out
their best
the park
communicator.
This morning. But here's the thing. I saw the footage when they had the Lebanese embassy, the Palestinian embassy, sorry, and he was there. Oh, make sure I'm in the picture when they're raising their flag. He's desperate to show up. He's got a majority of about 500 odd.
That's right. Yeah.
And he's been basically there was a Gaza MP,
Ilford North,
candidate could have taken his seat. So he is after that vote. So he has been really, really not solid at all on the Israel issue. That is a defining moral issue of our age, and he did not stand up to it. He's been pretty sound over the years on trans. He's one of the few Labour opposition members during the last Tory government who, when he came on my show, didn't think that women had a penis.
I remember that. It was an iconic moment when he said, adult female human biology lesson over, next question.
Yeah, exactly. And it was an expression because he didn't say something stupid like 0.1% of women have penises. We did the check yesterday. I don't need to check again. It's not grown. But Keir Starmer, until early this year, he did think that. But this is the thing. He has actually reneged on a lot of that. And we've got a tribunal going through the court, the employment tribunal right now, where we've got nurses who were forced to get undressed in changing room with a man. You can call yourself what you want, you're still a man, watching them, made them feel very uncomfortable, and they were told, well, you can go and get changed in a closet then.
Very interestingly, the BBC reported that story for the first time yesterday. I wonder why.
Oh, I mean, don't. But by the way, they're still the best of us. Now, isn't it interesting? Because the BBC would have been actually a topic possibly worth getting onto, but again, it's a difficult topic. It's not the responsibility of the Prime Minister. But I must ask you, in terms of what Tim Davie, and I was listening to you on Drive yesterday, but in terms of what Tim Davies had to say, basically, the BBC, we are the very best of society, and is blaming enemies of the BBC.
They don't get it. They don't get it.
It is quite extraordinary.
They just don't get it. This is because of a major editing error where you falsify, botched job, doctored job, where you change what the President of the United States said. He's now saying yes, you have your enemies, you're always going to have your enemies, but when you have people like Alistair Campbell coming out saying that, Robbie Gibb, because he used to work for Theresa May, shouldn't be in the BBC board. I mean...
That tells you everything. That anyone, because you've been a Tory, you can't possibly have anything to do with the politically neutral BBC.
James Purnell was a senior person, he was former Culture Secretary for Labour, Gavin Davies. The BBC it just doesn't get it.
Here's the thing.
Tim Davie doesn't get it.
I'm of the view, and I wonder what you both think of this, that actually Tim Davie and Keir Starmer share a lot of traits.
That's interesting.
Completely, I mean, basically, risen without trace. Actually, they talk a good game, they look the part, they wear a nice suit, but actually they are empty vessels. And basically, they completely and utterly deluded, Claire. They're utterly deluded. They think they're the good people, and the organisation they're head of are the good people, and the nice people, and the kind people, and therefore anyone who criticises them is a bad person. And let's face it, a far right.
And that's what keeps them happy. That's what makes their dinner parties lovely, their quinoa suppers in Islington.
They make a wonderful strawberry souffle for dessert, I'm sure.
I'm sure. Wild strawberries, not just any farm strawberries. But I think that they believe us to be wrong. They believe us to be incorrect. We are all bigoted. And they are the gods of it all.
While we've been speaking, Nigel Farage, leader of Reform UK, of course, he's made a fuss. He wasn't in the spectator gallery this week because he actually did get a question. I don't know whether he just got picked or whether there has been actually a little bit of a chat with Sir Lindsay Hoyle, the Commons Speaker, that, he may only have 5 MPs, but he's also leading in the polls. He's odds on the most likely next Prime Minister. He should be allowed to ask questions at PMQs. He's asked the Prime Minister, will the Prime Minister approve the speeding up of the closure of migrant hotels? To which Keir Starmer replied, "We will correct the mess we inherited and close every hotel." But it appears he's also not had the time to condemn the racist comments of his own MP. Utterly spineless, of course. This is Sarah Pochin's comments. And I mean, I'm just not quite sure that's going to work.
I mean,
bearing in mind they're still opening contracts for migrant hotels to be open after 2030.
And Home Office lawyers were arguing within the last few days to keep the Bell Hotel open in Epping. I mean, literally government lawyers were there saying, we're going to the highest possible court we can to keep the Bell Hotel in Epping open.
I mean, in defiance of our own policy to close those hotels. Well, we spoke to one of the campaiggners at Epping Forest about that. You know, they are horrified. But again, as we discussed before, Claire, they'd actually rather, which certainly our guests would rather have them in hotels than in, you know, a local bed seat. You don't know where they are.
And I think that's the problem. You want to be able to understand where these people are. You need to be able to keep tabs on them. You need them to appear in front of, you know, whichever tribunal you need to have them to look at their asylum case. So to have them scattered across the country where no one's going to have eyes on them, I think is worse.
I think it's a much bigger problem. Let's come back just finally to close this to talk about, you know, Keir Starmer, where he's at, you know, war with his own cabinet, you know, lost the trust of British people. I mean, these things are undoubtedly true. This isn't a matter of opinion anymore. He goes through, you know, members of staff in Downing Street, absurd rate. Does it matter? Does any of this matter in terms of, I mean, you've worked in government, both of you. Maybe that's why we're in the mess we're in. Just throwing that out there.
Well,
but does it matter if there is all this internal shenanigans?
It matters when it's external, because the position of the Prime Minister is never going to feel entirely secure until whenever it is he stands down, whether it's an election or prior to that.
Well, if he was really popular in the polls, no one would be
if it was going well, this wouldn't be happening.
If he was good at his job,
yes, this wouldn't be happening.
Is there anyone else who could do the job better?
I mean, I think there are quite a few people who could probably do the job better. The question is who...
Well, Claire's cat, we've suggested as well.
Claire's cat, yeah.
Oh, wait a minute.
Cat, Jack,
God.
My cat.
What was I thinking?
Jack against Tango.
Can I just say, I just made the fatal error of mentioning cats to Peter Cardwell. I would like to formally apologise to my audience for that.
I do feel, I mean, the problem is, Julia, because
you talk about your cat, I'm going to
I'm not going to talk about my cat. I'm not going to talk about my cat. But the problem is, now you've mentioned it, I'm going to have to say that I've written a book called Political Animals. You know,
have you? You mentioned it so rarely.
I know, I keep it off social media. I try to keep it on the down low. But listen, the main political animal, which is, of course, Keir Starmer, he is in serious trouble. This speculation is not going to go away. There'll be no point as time goes on. Now it's started. Now I thought he might get to the budget. He might have got to the council elections in May. But now it's started. It's not going to go away at any point until he goes.
Not. Same question to you, Claire. Does it matter? Does any of this matter?
It does. If you cannot control the team around you, then you have no chance of controlling the rest of the country.
Yeah, and also, again, they thought this was a show of strength. It's actually made them look really weak. They are really bad. So bad. Again, your lot were terrible, but this lot, I mean, take it to a new...
We were better at plotting. Seriously.
And getting rid of leaders.
Oh, well,
I mean, again, put that in a manifesto and ask people to vote for it.
I'll have that on a poster.
There we go. This is why we have them, because they're honest. They're honest about it. 12:25 is the time. Always great to have you in. Lovely
Thanks, Julia.
It's nice to actually be able to talk every week, don't you, get to see you in person.
Of course.
Instead of listening to each other. But there we are. Peter Cardwell with us, of course. Claire Pissell staying on, because, again, I'm going to lock the door after Peter's allowed out. We are going to be talking to the brilliant lawyer, Mark Stevens, about what is going on with that possible $1 billion lawsuit from Donald Trump against the BBC. And actually, it might be a bit harder than he thinks. And we're going to talk about, just how many people are or are not behind bars, who should be behind bars this week. Who knows? Certainly not the Justice Secretary, David Lammy. And up next, we're going to take your calls. Give us a call, your thoughts on what's been going on in PMQs and Keir Starmer. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. This is Talk.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now. Big news.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Good afternoon, welcome back to the show. 12:29 is the time. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Claire Pistol's still with me. Let's get straight to your calls about Keir Starmer and just where we are. Robert is in Hertfordshire and he's on the line. Robert, what do you make of Keir Starmer and this toxic culture at number 10? And apparently, according to Kemi Badenoch, he's at war with his cabinet. He's lost the trust of the British people, you name it.
Well, I've got a question for you. Are you a horror film fan?
No, not at all. I can't do gore at all.
Right, well, I'll tell you for why.
So I couldn't work in this government.
They remind me of, you get a horror film set in a lunatic asylum, and the twist of the film is, at the end, it's revealed that the lunatics have taken over the asylum and they've got all the doctors locked up in the basement.
Yeah.
This is the Labour Party.
Yeah, this is true.
You know, what I'd like to say is, we've got a globalist government led by a globalist Prime Minister. And he's the biggest hypocrite in the world, because I'll tell you for why. He was a staunch opponent to Brexit, and he tried to get another referendum going when you know, we won. Now, that's how. The only reason he's swanning around like a statesman is because of Brexit. You know, because if it would have been Remain, he wouldn't be there. It'd be a representative of the EU. So he's swanning around. He's never here, is he? Like you said,
never here. Yeah, absolutely. And apparently he's got about, I don't know, 10 more trips planned before the end of the year or something. It's madness.
And he's a globalist. And this is what winds me up.
Yep.
We're giving foreign aid to countries like Pakistan, who are a nuclear power.
Yeah, it's absurd.
Now, we gave them a lot of money for contraceptions, for condoms a little while ago. I suggest they start using them, don't you?
I'm going to leave that to Robert rather than me. Robert, thank you for your call. You never guess who's on the line to cheer us all up. Georgina is on the line in London. Hello, Georgina. What do you want to say?
Good afternoon, Julia. Good afternoon, Claire. Well, I listened to PMQ and I've got to say, Julia, I'm not impressed at all. Keir Starmer's totally out of his depth, and Kemi Badenoch's going for the gotchas all the time and not learning anything about what's going on in the country and what's to come. But I have got a little bit of advice for both parties if they want to get on.
Yeah.
Can I say? Well, you know, they've got to stop using the F word, which is free, because actually nothing's free. It's taxpayer funded. They need to start saying it for what it actually is.
Yeah.
Taxpayer funded. Nothing is free.
Yeah.
NHS, you know,
free.
That's a health service for residents of the United Kingdom. Also taxpayer funded, as is our welfare infrastructure. Well, you know, we're not an international health service or welfare system, and those who come to the United Kingdom primarily for healthcare treatment must be made to pay, as should illegal immigrants. The fact that the British taxpayer should foot these bills is an absolute disgrace. The same for our welfare system. This should be for British residents only, and only for those who have been means tested, with the exception, obviously, for people with disabilities, the elderly, and veterans who
but you say disabilities. Well, that's a lot of people on welfare are supposedly on disabilities. It's what we count as a disability. That's the key thing.
I'm talking born with a serious disability. The others need to be means tested. They need to be tested properly, because all this, I've got migraine or I've got anxiety, honestly, that needs to go down the toilet, Julia.
I'm with you.
It's breaking funding the backbone of our economy, and our taxpayers were never going to get out of the problems in this pit with a socialist government who wants to rob every penny from the hard-working Britons to give it to people who don't want to work, Julia, and are not contributing anything to the economy. We need capitalism to get the economic growth going.
This is the thing, and especially with young people, capitalism's got a really bad name. That's why you've got a new New York mayor, Mandani. I mean, people do not understand that the life we have now is as a result of A, fossil fuels, B, capitalism. I mean, I'm sorry. Oh, let's see, democracy, actually. You know, democracy actually helps promote a lot of those things. It is utterly extraordinary how people have forgotten those key things. Georgina, thank you so much. I do appreciate that. It's a fair point, isn't it, Claire? I mean, that's one of the things, and again, that's where the BBC comes into this, and we'll talk about them next in a few moments, is it's amazing how often, you know, again, talk about welfare is always, oh, no, but people are going to lose welfare. They never talk about it has to be paid for, and like the 2-child benefit cap. So every time your family can have 3, 4, 5, 6 kids and dad not working properly, mum's not working at all, and we have to pay for their kids and their choices, other people who do go to work, who pay tax, they have to make choices themselves, and it means that they have to pay so much tax they can't afford to have another child themselves. They can't afford another bedroom or to take the time off, because, you know, paternity cover, you know, the maternity leave, what was it, 112 quid a week? I mean, you can't most people can't pay their rent on that. I mean, so they never talk, they never ever talk about who has to pay for everything. It's not free.
Because it's always somebody else's problem. And I think this is the real issue, is, and Georgina highlighted it, capitalism is treated as such a bad thing.
And socialism somehow means the nice people.
Absolutely.
Where? Tell me an example of when that's happened.
Yeah, it doesn't work. But wealth is always treated like a bad word. And it's like, but you need to have wealth because you need to have prosperity, because then you will have the money to spend on the things you want as a nation. But also, it's quite simple.
And that people who get rich in some way are exploiting people as opposed to selling people. I mean, I've got one of those ridiculously expensive iPhones. No one's exploited me. I've chosen to spend my money on it, and someone's made money out. They've developed it and made money on it. I'm intensely relaxed about that.
But businesses are treated as an appalling set of circumstances, but they employ people, they create opportunities, they take a risk, which is what the state doesn't do. And they're pilloried.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just extraordinary. Again, we're going to have to go through a whole Labour government. We're going to have to go through the madness of, you know, God knows what they're going to do. But the reality, you know, reality kicks in eventually. The question is just how much damage is going to be done before everyone wakes up. 12:35 is the time. We're going to be taking a quick break. Then we're going to be talking to brilliant media lawyer Mark Stevens about the very, very strange state of affairs of the American president suing our national broadcaster for $1 billion. He says basically, you know, it's his obligation to do so, but how much would he actually win? Would he win if he did sue? That's up next. This is Talk.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Good afternoon, welcome back to the show. 12:39 is the time. Let's talk more about the BBC, because my God, the BBC love talking about the BBC, but my goodness me, they really have been in the news this week. Donald Trump has said overnight in an interview on American television he has an obligation to sue the BBC for $1 billion if he doesn't get a full apology and a retraction by Friday night. But he's kind of already had that already, has he not? Given that he actually launched that lawsuit, we're told, launched the threat of the lawsuit on Sunday. It was ahead of the resignations of both Tim Davie, the Director General of the BBC, and also Deborah Turness, the head of BBC News. But yesterday we also had the interesting situation of Tim Davie, Director General, he's still in the job for the next few months while they find a replacement. Although frankly, I think having no one in the job might do the job better. Where he told the BBC that it was down to the enemies of the BBC who'd stoked the bias scandal engulfing the corporation, but also said that the broadcaster was the very best of society. So they obviously think they're better than us mere scum, don't they? Well, let's talk about all of this with media lawyer Mark Stevens. A very good afternoon to you, Mark.
Afternoon, Julia.
Thank you for joining us. Let's talk first of all about the lawsuit, because you've been in this world for a very, very, very long time. I'm sure being at the defending end and the attacking end of many a lawsuit involving these sort of things. Basically, he wants to sue under American law, under Florida law, doesn't he, against the BBC because for libeling him, for misrepresenting him and damaging his reputation. Question, does he have a reputation to defend?
Well, let's not beat about the bush here. Donald Trump threatening to sue is almost as common as rain in Manchester. I mean, he does love a headline, and $1 billion has a certain ring to it. But the law isn't a campaign rally. To win such a case, you need much more than bombast and bluster. You need evidence and merit. And I think he's got real problems. In America, the programme wasn't shown. So in order to found jurisdiction, his lawyers are going to have to show that a lawful copy of the programme was available. Yeah. And it wasn't shown there on BBC iPlayer or anywhere else. Unlawful copies, breach of copyright copies that may go on platforms, don't count. So if he gets over that and says my reputation was damaged, the Americans have the First Amendment, which allows you to libel the president, say wrong things about him, inaccurate things about him, because he's the president. And so as a consequence of that, it's not clear that even under American law, he's got the ability to sue.
Yeah, and he can't use British law, can he? Because there's a statute of limitations of a year. And of course, this was broadcast before the November 24 election. So when in this October.
Country, it's a year, and that finished at midnight on the 27th of October. So he's kind of 2 weeks out of time. In Florida and many other states in America, you can wait 2 to 3 years before a suit. Yeah. But you have to show that the Panorama episode was actually broadcast, and it was that lowered his estimation. It lowered him in the estimation of right-thinking people. And I think, putting the wreckage of January the 6th and the taking of the Capitol at the door of Panorama is probably a bit of a stretch.
And that's the thing. There have been numerous court cases in America, and indictments and Senate hearings and the like, which have said very similar things about him inciting the riot. Now, what the BBC did, regardless of what he said, was an outrageous breach of the most basic journalistic ethics and propriety. I mean, I was saying earlier, at my journalism college, you'd have been failed for having done that. And for the head of the BBC to say it was a mistake, and for the head of news to say there is no institutional bias, frankly, is an insult to our intelligence and laughable. It was clearly deliberately done to make it look like he had directly incited the riots. But there have been many who've alleged that anyway in some of the other language he used, and he certainly was enjoying the riots happening. We've got statements statements from his immediate staff and family members on the day of those riots, begging him to go on social media, call for these people to stop. He chose not to do that for a very long time. So there is a big question about whether he'd even win. But when you make a threat, when you're Donald Trump and he threatens to sue just every day with a Y in it, but he has won money from other media organisations in America. Is it likely there will have to be a grovelling apology from Tim Davie, more so than there's already been, and there'll have to be some money?
Apology, because what the BBC did was wrong.
Yeah.
But the question, and I think many listeners will be surprised at this, the question is not whether the BBC was wrong, but whether, as a consequence of that, somebody in America watched the programme and thought the less of Donald Trump. Yeah. And the issue here, as you rightly say, was those inciting words and phrases. So we fight like hell, we fight, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have your country anymore. Yeah. We won this election and we won it by a landslide. I mean, that sort of false assertion repeated throughout the speech and for the weeks prior, laid the groundwork to convincing supporters that the election result was illegitimate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those kinds of things that caused the damage, not the BBC panorama. And that's why I think...
Yeah. But again, the BBC was still wrong, and there seems to be this view that, well, it's okay because it's Donald Trump. But, how many other things? Callers this week were saying, how many other things have they been lying about, and they don't seem to think it's a problem. And we know in terms of coverage of Israel, the nonsense coverage, I would say, both things like climate change and also particularly of trans, I think deeply damaging. I mean, the propaganda put to children and, in children's programming and teen programming and the like. Where do you think this all ends? Because we've got the Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy talking about the BBC as a light on the hill. We've got Tim Davie saying that that the broadcast is the very best of society. We've got the outgoing head of news saying there is no institutional bias. When anyone with eyes and ears can tell that they're not the best. They aren't politically neutral. There is an absolute rot at the heart of this organisation. The polls show the trust in the BBC is plummeting every single day they broadcast. Fewer and fewer people are watching. More and more people are refusing to pay their licence fee. You've been in this field for a long time. Where do you think this ends?
I think it ends probably with some significant members of the board being changed.
But they want the Tories off. They want Robbie Gibb off.
Well, I think there's that, but, one of the things that should be a disqualifier is you're a member of any political party. The whole thing about the BBC is that, they're supposed to reflect all of our views and opinions, and I sort of take the view that, if the BBC is annoying everybody, then it's probably doing its job right.
No, but that's what they've argued. But it depends. If a Corbynista is claiming that it's a pro-Israel organisation with no evidence whatsoever, that shouldn't be taken as evidence, taken as equally valid as, we decided to pay the child of a Hamas official £1,000 to host a documentary. I mean, these are not the same things. But here's the thing. No one seems to have an issue with, as Peter McCarthy pointed out, James Purnell, a former Labour minister, being a very senior figure at the BBC. No one has a problem, with numerous figures who've worked in senior positions at the BBC who are from the Labour side. But as soon as it's someone who's a Tory, they lose their minds.
Politicians generally
should be out.
Being involved in our national broadcaster. It should be, if you have been a member of a political party, that should be a disqualifier from being on the board.
Okay, here's the thing. Isn't it better that we know? Because the reality is, I've no idea what Deborah Turnus is, whether she's a member of a political party or not, but I'm pretty sure I know how she votes.
Well, that may be right. I think that what we're missing at the BBC is people who believe in strong, robust, independent voices and protection of freedom of expression. And for me, that's the touchstone of the BBC.
So I think Mark is definitely endorsing me as the next Director General of the BBC. Did I hear that right?
I thought you were endorsing me.
Do you know, I would actually. Mark Stevens, so good to talk to you. Thank you so much, media lawyer Mark Stevens. Claire Pissell, but did you know, where does this end? Because I've not been a defund the BBC person. No. I want the BBC, I just wanted to do the job we employ it to do, which is to be neutral and unbiased and give us some facts. Yeah. But they seem intent on not doing that.
And this is their problem, is the implosion of the BBC. I mean, it was always going to happen as well, and it's really disappointing. When they do things well, they are excellent. When they mess up, They don't admit it.
What's the last thing they
gets
did well?
worse. I think some of the dramas that they've done, I think the investment into things like The Night Manager, I know that's going back some time. I don't watch a lot of television. They could have, but they didn't. And the BBC used to be very good. It used to have an awful lot of good comedy shows. It has downgraded all of those things.
Some of the scariest words you ever hear now is Radio 4, and they say we've got a new comedy at 6:30.
Please don't.
Oh, good God, good God. Anyway, 12:48 is the time. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to talk to our favourite former Met Police Detective, Peter Blexley, about prisoners who are not behind bars and who are freed, but we're not quite sure how many and where they are or who they are. But everything's going absolutely fine. That's up next. This is Talk.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
This is Talk. Welcome back to the show. 12:52 is the time. Last few minutes of my show before Ian Collins comes in to tell us what's happening on his. And let's talk about, well, there are some prisoners who've been convicted and who are behind bars. That's the best we can say. It's certainly the best that the Justice Secretary and Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy can say. He was forced to come to the Commons yesterday and answer questions from Robert Jenrick, his opposite number, asking about, exactly how many prisoners have actually been freed by accident and how many are still at large. It turns out that 91 prisoners have been let out by mistake in just the last 7 months. 3 were still on the loose, 2 British nationals, 1 an Albanian drug dealer, and they're trying to establish whether or not a 4th offender is still loose after he was wrongly freed on November the 3rd, but they don't know. Blowing my mind, this. But let's talk about this with former Metropolitan Police Detective Peter Blexley. Peter, how is it possible, A, these people get released, and B, they don't know if someone has actually been found or not?
It is absolutely staggering, the inefficiency and the crass incompetence coming out of our jails. But, you know, there's a really serious matter here, which you'll forgive me if you will, just for one moment. I'm going to read the very top line from the government's own website about what it exists for, why we have a government.
Oh, God.
This is the top line. I'll be very brief. The first duty of the government is to keep citizens safe and the country secure. Full stop. There you have it. So what part of that duty, the government's duty to its citizens and the country, is being upheld by this nonsense situation between the 1st of April 2024 and the 31st of October, just gone? Over 300 were mistakenly let out of jail. It's an absolute scandal. It's ridiculous and incompetent, and I'm afraid having Lammy in charge of it all might not necessarily help.
No, well, there is that. Look, I hold no candle for David Lammy, but he's not personally responsible for someone going, yeah, I haven't got the right paperwork, off you go, mate. Of course he's not. He's not there at the prison gates. And he's also not been in the job very long, and we know there has been a long-standing issue ever since the Cameron regime, when there was massive austerity, there were massive cutbacks, and criminal justice and the Home Office took a big hit on that. And it turns out you can't do criminal justice on the cheap, can you? Because we basically lost a lot of funding. They didn't build any prisons, overcrowded, a lot of stress on prison officers. Their pay didn't go up, load have left. Most of the prison officers now working have very little experience. They're being trained, the new people, by people with, only a couple of years experience, as opposed to old hands who can teach them what to do. The problem is it's been a long time coming, hasn't it, this incompetence?
Well, yes, it has, but only last week David Lammy told us that he'd put the strictest rules in place. Clearly, they've not been applied.
And one of these people actually was released after that case.
Correct. Yeah. So they're not working. And, of course, the entire criminal justice system, from the sharp end, the front end with policing, we know about the crises facing policing. Yeah. Then we get to the Crown Prosecution Service, underfunded, underperforming. Then we get to the courts, leaking roofs, rubbish IT, some courts sitting empty because there's not enough judges, and let's remember a barrister's strike not so long ago. Then we get to the prisons, and we're talking about the lamentable state of our prisoners' state here and now. And then, of course, we get to the probation service, who on their own admission are only effectively monitoring a quarter of their workload.
Exactly.
So back to that duty of the government to keep us safe, they are failing on just about every level.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the most egregious cases is this Albanian drug dealer who's among the apparently he was among the record 27,000 appeals by migrants using human rights laws to block his deportation from the UK. Jailed for 8 years after his gang was caught with 7 kilograms of cocaine, appealing his deportation, granted indefinite leave, and again, one of the many people who is currently here and on our streets and causing problems.
Which then feeds in, quite naturally, to the whole immigration debate. 2,121 illegals coming in 4 boats last week from Thursday through to Sunday. Where is this government's duty to keep us safe? They should say that this is a state of emergency facing our criminal justice system and our open borders policy, and consequently put in the measures, have the courage to put in the measures to actually do what your duty is. Yeah. And I would suggest, because I'm afraid this will happen very soon, another life will be lost to murder by somebody who shouldn't be here.
Absolutely.
I would strongly suggest that they sue the government for a breach of duty, and if need be, start a class action, have lots of victims come together.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I always say we've got enough of our own wrong uns. What do you make of the independent MP Rupert Lowe? Very briefly, the Prime Minister's questions, he asked, does the Prime Minister agree that for cases where the guilt is so undeniable, the crime is so monstrous, the evil is so irredeemable, the reintroduction of the death penalty for foreign and domestic criminals should be put to the British people in a legally binding referendum? Keir Starmer replied, reintroducing the death penalty is not the answer, it didn't work. What we must do is improve, as we are, the criminal justice response in this country. What would you say about that?
I don't want to live in a country where we murder our own citizens, how horrendous they are. Think of Harold Shipman, Fred West and many others who got sentenced to whole life terms. They couldn't face it, so they took their own lives. The real punishment is a lifetime of incarceration, let alone the company that.
Here's the thing. The key is it has to be a lifetime. You go behind bars and you come out in a coffin. Peter Blexley, former Met Police Detective, thank you very much indeed. Claire Pistol, I'll let you choose what to come back on that, but as someone who used to work in the Home Office, I know the Home Office has to deal... The Home Office often has to create some problems that the criminal justice system has to deal with, and then the criminal justice system creates the problems that the Home Office has to deal with.
It certainly does, and this is the problem when you underfund departments. Whether you like them or not, they do some really important work.
It's unsexy stuff, but it costs money.
It costs money, and a lot of it, so unfortunately we have to have it.
Yeah, we're living with the results of that, are we not? But again, you know, if we hadn't had the crash, the end of boom and bust under Gordon Brown, then we would. You go back. Ian Collins is with us right now. Tell us what's